spaceship sounds.
I can do it. We have the technology.
Welcome to the Stateside Podcast. It's been a minute, and we're good to be back. Neil, how you doing?
I am good to be back.
Good
as
to
you
be
would
back.
say, yes.
Back to be good.
Back to the future. is what I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
say.
yeah.
I'm back from the future.
Back
I
from
actually
the
went
future.
To the future.
Drewski, how you doing?
Doing good, man.
Doing good. Tonight we have a very special guest, Travis Ball from Nashville.
No relation to Ernie Ball.
No relation at all.
Unfortunately, no relation. Yeah.
Say what's up, Travis. How's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man. Glad to have you on. Travis is part of the Stateside roster, and he's joining us via Skype tonight. Hopefully the audio is turning out just fine. I think it will. And if it's not, deal with it. Because it's a free podcast.
It's low budget, man. We're real low budget on this
Real
one.
low budget.
Yeah, speaking of free, I was telling you guys beforehand, so the 7-Eleven had bottles of wine for sale for $1.
Oh, my God.
So that's what I'm doing.
What kind was that?
It is called Trojan Horse.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my
Neil.
gosh.
That is rough.
Trojan Horse. It's 11%, so, whatever. $1?
That's at least something.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than nothing. I got coffee. After I'm done with this coffee, I'll switch over to beer. What you drinking, Travis?
Man, I've got some Buffalo Trace bourbon
Ooh.
in the glass today.
That's a Tennessee man.
It's actually Kentucky bourbon.
I was gonna
it's not
say.
Tennessee.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Bourbon, I guess, is Kentucky. I
Yeah.
knew that. I was a bartender.
Whatever. It all tastes good.
Same here.
Yeah.
Well, some of that doesn't taste good, but
Well, why don't you tell the listeners who you are and where you're from? Give a quick little bio so people have some context on who we're talking to.
yeah, sure. Well, I'm Travis. I currently live in Nashville, Tennessee. Came here by way of Michigan.
Oh, that's right.
Do predominantly a lot of mixing here in the studio. Got some education through a university called Belmont here in Nashville, and then did some assisting and interning with some folks after school. Dustin Burnett being one of those guys, who actually last year, 2 years ago, released a really awesome side project called Zaid Wolf, which is getting a lot of attention for
Nice.
sync placement stuff. You might have heard a lot of his music on NFL ads or pre-roll, anything like that. And then also got some knowledge from Ryan Hewitt,
That's right.
which was super awesome
The
and
legend.
fun. And that kind of was the last thing to get me started in my career. And I've just been working ever since here in Nashville.
Yeah, man. That Ryan Hewitt thing, too. You were on Pensado's Place,
Yep.
that show, the YouTube show.
I was. Yeah, that was wild.
Dude, that is rad. We'll have to put a link. Andrew, we'll have a link to that YouTube show in the bio.
It's also on
that'd
the
be
website, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
might be a good thing to plug.
It's on
That
your
was kind of a
website.
cool.
Might as well direct them to the website,
Yeah, that's right. It is on the website at.
This is true. I think it is on
Don't mean to do your
on my
job for you,
page.
James.
Yeah,
but
no kidding. StatesideMGMT.com. You can find that video as well, with a video interview with Ryan Hewitt and Travis. Yeah. Well, cool, man. So, but yeah, what are you working on these days? What's the latest and greatest?
Well, I actually, all of October, I was out on the road mixing for a house for an artist by the name of Michael W. Smith,
Hell yeah.
who is a major CCM artist, been around for a while now. So we're doing a 2-week Canada tour, which was a blast. And then got back not too long ago, and now working on some work for a band called Bunkface. Started that this week, and they are this formerly kind of like a punk pop band from Malaysia, and now kind of turning pop.
Yeah.
And just sent the first mix out just before we jumped on here. So
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier today. That's really cool. They're really easy to work with, too. Really nice guys.
yeah, it's been fun. I'm looking forward to the songs to come, and I always love working with international bands. Like, it's just something exciting. I love to travel. So it's always like, I look up on the Google Maps, like, where are these guys from? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's halfway around the world. And
You stalk your
I don't know.
clients.
Yeah.
it's just something fun.
You stalk your clients.
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
Okay. I stalk them on Instagram, Facebook, Google Maps. Don't tell anybody.
I look up their socials, their,
Yeah. The Michael
I know the
W.
producer just went to China.
What's that? Go ahead.
The producer just took a flight to China for something. I'm not sure what he's there for, but he's currently in China right now.
Nice. Izzy?
Yes.
That's his name? Yeah.
Izzy. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that Michael W. Smith gig that you did, that tour, I mean, that's actually pretty cool. I told you my parents were unbelievably stoked that you were a part of that, because that was a really big part of my childhood, growing up that way. And yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see that he's still out there doing it. And it was really fun to watch your Instagram stories and stay up to date. Did you see any of that, Neil?
What's that?
The tour that he just got off? He
Did I
was
see
on.
any of it? No,
Yeah,
I
he was posting a bunch of live stuff.
Oh,
on
I
Instagram.
follow him. So
Yeah.
yeah, I probably saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a really cool thing to follow for sure. I bet it's good to be home though,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It is, yeah. I like to tour occasionally. It's great to get out of Nashville and out of the studio for a minute. I just don't like to tour for very long. This tour was 2 weeks. That's about my limit.
Yeah.
After that, I'm like ready to go home,
Right.
kind of a thing. But it's a great thing for me because eventually, like it does happen where I just get kind of bogged down in the studio and need some fresh air and go to a different country and do some shows.
Tell me about it.
No kidding.
Seems to do the trick.
Yeah.
Well, so how do you like working in Nashville? I mean, what does that mean to you? And I mean, that's obviously such a musical hub. I mean, so I guess a two-part question. What is working in Nashville? How is that going for you? And what is being like? What does location mean to you?
Well, because
does
obviously
that matter?
you're from Michigan and you stayed there, right? Because you moved there for school and whatnot.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So
Right.
Yeah, so
That's a good question,
what
actually.
kept you there?
It's interesting because in Michigan, where I was from, there was not a lot of access to the nitty-gritty knowledge that's needed to really do what I do now. And so when I was looking at colleges and furthering my education, I looked at a bunch of different schools, one of them actually being Ball State, ironically, and went there. And their actually audio engineering program is actually tied with their music program. So I had to audition for their music school to even get accepted to take their audio engineering classes, which I got in, but I didn't ultimately end up going there because when I came to Nashville and visited Belmont, I immediately felt the vibe and the pulse of the city just being a music town. I mean, when I went and visited everything for the first time, like I was looking up studios on my computer as like, I guess a 19-year-old kid or something, 18, I don't remember how old I was.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and then going around and just parking in these studio parking lots and just saying like, oh, cool, this is where this person recorded and this is where this artist did this thing. And so right away I was already just hooked and I hadn't even, graduated high school yet at that point. For me, coming down here to really go to Belmont to learn was awesome because there's so much of the music industry in this city. There's a lot of networking opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for things like internships and apprenticeships and I mean, any number of things. Like it all kind of comes here at one time or another. Like even NAMM, Summer NAMM is here now, which isn't as good as the Winter NAMM, but
Yeah.
it still just brings people in the industry together. And I like being around that. I like kind of
Right.
being in the thick of things. I think it's totally possible to do what I do outside of Nashville, and people do it all the time. But I kind of like being in a centralized location around an unbelievable amount of talented individuals that are artists, other producers, other mix engineers, managers, publishing companies. It's all here and you can all rub shoulders with them, when you go out to drinks and things like that. So I just kind of like that aspect of it. And Nashville's just a great city. I'm from a pretty small town in Michigan. It's the first big city that I've lived in, truly. And I've just enjoyed that aspect of it. There's a lot coming to Nashville, like traffic, which is a total bitch. But it's a fun place to be, and it really, breathes music 24/7. And it's fun. I mean, in reality, my studio is out near the airport. It's about 20 minutes from downtown. So if I don't actually leave my
That
house,
sounds exactly.
I don't really
like
see
this
much of
place.
anything. But, it's still worth it, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you something because I actually get asked a lot because I went to Full Sail, if you've heard of that.
Mm-hmm. I have
get
actually looked at
asked-
that for a little bit.
Yeah, I get asked all the time, should I go to school from kids, like, should I go? What school? Blah, blah, blah. So it sounds like with Belmont, it was the location that made you pick right? Or what was
I
your,
think
what was
so,
the
and
ultimate
it-
choice in picking that college?
That's a good question. I think it was a couple things. It wasn't just one, thing that made me want to go there. Location obviously being one thing. I felt that the program itself was fairly in depth from me not knowing really anything about engineering at that point. Like I'd done a little stuff in the live sector before I came to audio school, but I really didn't know what I was doing. So just from what they told me and going through orientation, like this is a good place to go. Is they'll tell me what I need to know. There's big consoles here. Like they've got studios right on campus. Like this seems legit. I never visited Full Sail, so I didn't get that, I guess, pitch, if you will. But my parents also kind of pushed me to like, you should do more of like a 4-year type school with other students that do other things. And ultimately for me, I liked that because I made tons of friends that were commercial voice majors and commercial guitar majors and music business majors. Belmont has
they
one of the
offer
best
a
music
lot
business
there,
programs,
then.
I think, in the country still. And so I wasn't just rubbing shoulders with other creatives doing things like video work or radio, or I think Phyllis has got a culinary thing too, which is all great stuff. But Belmont really puts you in with other kids doing even other aspects of the music industry that could be valuable to you later in life. And so that was super cool to me to kind of discover that almost after the fact, of becoming a student there and learning who I was meeting and rubbing shoulders with and what they were going to do later in life. So
Yeah.
There you go. Go to Belmont.
Yeah.
Sounds
yeah, and again, I definitely I don't like pitching Belmont necessarily. Like it's a good school. I got a value out of it. I think everyone's education needs are different, and I always hesitate to tell someone like straight up to. Did you drop the mic?
So James broke his mic
I always
stand.
hesitate to tell someone like you should do X, Y, and Z for your education, because everyone just needs different things, and some people just don't have the money to go to school, and that's fine. There's plenty of other avenues out there to learn, how to record a vocal, mix a track. There's no right way to go about doing it. And I dropped out of Belmont. Like I did not even graduate. I didn't even finish.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean that's knowing what I know now. When people ask me, should I go to Full Sail? Should I do this? I'm like, honestly, with the age of YouTube and like interning with people, because like I don't know how it is at Belmont, but Full Sail, they basically teach you how to, the whole like business model, I guess you could say, is you could walk into any studio, whether it's a multi-million-dollar facility or a home studio, and know how to run it in under 10 minutes. But they don't actually teach you the art of it. Like how to edit drums, how to, they teach you the standard tips and tricks, and this is a compressor. It's like if you were a painter, this is the paintbrush. This is this kind of paintbrush. This is when you would typically use this paintbrush, stuff like that. But so when people ask me, I'm like, look, if you can afford it, great. Like the way Full Sail helped me was it helped me stand out above the other interns that were applying. Because I could come in and I knew Pro Tools when they needed to be taught Pro Tools, stuff like that. But is it worth the investment? I don't know anymore. I mean, it's so fucking expensive.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, like I've got college loans and I'll have these loans for a period of time. And do I regret it? Absolutely not. Like it got me to Nashville where I am today. I learned a lot of stuff initially. I couldn't have gotten to where I eventually have ended up without it, at least from what I'm able to analyze. But yeah, I think even now, like I guess 7 years later, was when I would have started school. So much has changed in the way things are out online. PureMix.com is awesome. Even just the tons of free stuff out there on YouTube, like you mentioned, is a great valuable tool. And even like on my Instagram, I'm always posting little things that I'm doing. Even just following other people like myself, or other mixers like Brower or CLA or anything like that, or Neil, and
Well,
any of the stateside
James
guys,
is telling me
like-
I don't do it enough. Is what.
I literally just tapped.
What's that?
I literally just tapped Neil's shoulder and pointed to you, going,
Yeah.
like, you should do that.
Yeah.
You're a good
right.
example for all the other guys on the roster.
Well,
Let's just say that.
the problem is though is what can we legally get away with playing over the internet? That's
right. And I
Answer that
generally
question,
don't
Travis.
play
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
It's like, go ahead.
Go ahead. I said answer that question because you figured that out.
Yeah, so what I've done now that I'm doing even more of it now is I will always email the artist saying like, hey, I put out a lot of content.
Yep.
All the time. Like I don't even really think about it half the time. I'm putting out content on my Instagram just endlessly. Do you have any issues with your song being shown to my followers before it's released?
Right.
Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. Respect their wishes, whatever. If they say no, it's easy ways to get around it. Like you can, not put the sound on and saying like, hey, I'm using this multi-band compressor to take care of a really gross 4K,
Right.
noise that I don't like in this guitar or whatever. So there's ways to get around it, but I like to ask. It's just respectful, and even if they say no, there's plenty of ways to kind of get little tidbits out there. Even if it's just like a cool plugin. Like I found a plugin a month or two ago called Soothe by Oak Sound, and I love it, and I can't stop telling people how awesome it is. And I just yesterday I posted a picture like this plugin is still awesome because it's a really small company. Most people don't know what it is yet, and it's worth getting because I think it's actually a really cool tool that people will find very valuable.
Nice. Well, if they're listening, maybe they could sponsor you.
That would be cool. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I know.
Soothe your mixes.
Yeah, I give a lot of free promotion.
That's something Travis and I talk about frequently, how to get sponsors.
I mean, if anybody knows,
Soon.
it's Travis.
Yeah, well, he's got a good following. How many followers do you have now, as a shameless little
I
brag?
think 14,470,
Oh, more?
so I'm going to hit 14,500 probably tomorrow.
And that's all just like hustling and making it work for you. I think that's really cool. I commend you for that.
Thank you. It's so weird. Like, I tell my mom sometimes, like, Mom, I have like 14,000 people on Instagram. She's like, what does that mean? I'm like,
Right.
never mind.
Yeah, never mind. Just tell her if you're standing in
It's
a
pretty
room
weird, though.
with 14,000 people, it would
Yeah.
blow her mind.
What I tell my parents is, you know how like CNN and Fox is a channel. It's
Right.
like, well, on Instagram, I'm a channel, and that's how many people watch
Yes,
my newscast.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the Gary
That's a good way to put that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
So you got 14,000 people watching your news.
Yes.
Generally.
Well, I think Neil had a couple questions for you, didn't
I have
you?
a ton.
Yeah, well, let's rattle
I
them
love
off.
it.
Dude, okay, so let's start from the beginning if you don't mind.
Please.
So I'm curious to know. So how old were you when you decided that, hey, I want to do studio stuff?
It's a great question. I think it was about the time that I was applying to Belmont, which was 2010, which makes me about, how old would I would have been? Under 20. It would have been like 19 years old, I think.
Okay.
And before that, too, to give you some context, I was really hardcore into band. I was a trumpet player all through middle school and high school. I was pursuing that very aggressively for a time. I was taking tons of private lessons. I was performing in all-state bands and really wanting to go into music professionally as an instrumentalist. And then I discovered Pro Tools in my sophomore year of high school, and the world changed forever for me.
How did you discover Pro Tools?
so-
Was that part of your high school?
No, and this is actually kind of ties on the trumpet thing. I was actually attending master classes at a university close to where I grew up, and they would bring in pro trumpet players from all around the world to give us classes and lectures and whatever. And I think the second year I went to that, one of the guys, I forget who it was, said that you should record yourself practicing to then go back and listen and critique yourself a little better than trying to think while you're playing, which can be difficult to critique yourself while you're playing. I'm like, that's a good idea. So I went home, told my mom, like, I want something to record myself with. And I didn't even know what that meant. And I ended up getting Pro Tools for Christmas with an MBox 2 and a
You got smart
AKG
parents.
Perception 200 microphone.
You got fucking smart parents. Either that, or
And
they went to
loaded that up
convention.
on my parents' like Windows 2000 machine. And 3 months later, recorded like a really crappy band in my parents' living room.
Nice.
Did you make any money?
And I think I recorded myself playing trumpet like maybe 3 times ever. So I kind of didn't really fall through on that. But
how much?
Made
How
some-
much did you charge that first band?
I don't think I charged. Well, I don't think I charged them anything. I think it was a free session, if I'm not mistaken.
My first band, I actually had to pay them 2 Red Bulls. That was the
Yes.
first band I ever recorded because, like you, I was like, because I was in a band and we were like, how the fuck do you record? And so we started looking into it. Our drummer at the time was taking classes at a local community college, and then so I started looking into it, and I just fell in love with the knobs and the buttons and the lights and that whole thing of it. And then so I ended up convincing my parents to buy me a laptop, and then I saved up a bunch of money, just bought, I think, the Project Mix. Remember that thing?
Oh yeah.
Yep. I ended up buying that, and then a blue bottle, or not the blue bottle, the blue bird.
Yes.
And then, and so then I called all my friends trying to, thanks James. James putting his foot in front of the
showing
Skype
off
call.
my boots.
But yeah, and so then I called all my friends, and eventually I had to convince 2 of my friends by letting me pay them 2 Red Bulls to come record with.
The second record I ever did was a local metal band, and I think I had to convince them pretty hard to let me record them. I didn't have any speakers yet. I didn't have speakers for the longest time, but I did most of it on headphones or
Nice.
literal desktop computer speakers.
Definitely used a boombox
really
for
hi-fi
years,
monitoring.
Yeah.
And when I finally finished this record, which took me like 8 months, which is a little long to make a record, they were really mad at me.
Yeah.
They finally paid me in bottle slip returns and change and a bunch of like small bills.
Right.
And I think it probably was only like maybe like $200 for the whole record.
So there's a
Wasn't a whole lot.
lesson in there. So there's a lesson in there somewhere, Travis. And for the young aspiring producers and or mix engineers,
Go get what you want.
go get what you want, right? Do it for cheap. Don't expect the world right off
Yeah.
the bat.
Or pay the band like I did.
Yeah. Pay to play, motherfuckers.
Okay,
That's
so
Oh, gosh, that's
so
good.
so I have a series of questions if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I'll
rattle 'em
try-
off, bro.
Yeah, so you found your passion, you wanted to do it. What ultimately made you decide to go to college?
I think a lot. James.
Sorry.
For all of you that can't see this, we're doing this via Skype right now, and I'm just getting a lot of distracting visuals from
Sorry.
some of all
Yeah, the
across
viewers
the
can't
country
see
at
what
the
we're
moment.
doing to Travis, but we're
I'm
fucking with
supposed
him
to be
pretty
the
hard.
manager in the room, and I'm just a child. All right,
I
continue.
think the college route really came from my parents kind of encouraging me to do the college thing, because my mom's in the school system, my dad's a law enforcement officer, so they both kind of have blue collar jobs. My dad went to school for architecture originally, 4-year degrees kind of thing, and they kind of wanted that for me too, which
Your
is
dad's a
fine.
cop?
Like I get it, and I didn't really know any. What's that?
Your dad's a cop, is that what you said?
Yep, that's
oh,
correct.
right on. I like to hear more about that someday. That's cool.
Fuck, damn it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a sucker for it.
We gotta behave now.
No,
That's right. Because
no,
didn't you
I'm
say that
reading.
you do some?
Yeah, continue.
Did you do some stuff with the fire department or no?
Yeah, I
was that
did that
somebody
stuff for
else?
3 years. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yep.
what I thought. I remember we talked about that briefly. Anyway, so they both, do relatively normal type jobs with normal degrees and education, and they kind of wanted the again. I didn't really know any better or any different at this time, so I'm like, sure. I found a place that I want to go anyways that can teach me what I'm wanting to learn. It's a 4-year school. Let's do it. And as I went there, I did about 3 years, I think, learned a lot of stuff, but eventually discovered that to do engineering, work on music, degrees don't mean anything. And I
Boom.
had done a lot of the audio classes already.
Yeah.
What I had left was like math and biology and stuff that I really didn't care about and wasn't good at as a student. And so I actually dropped out of college and started working for Dustin Burnett and his drum sample company, That Sound Drums. I was like the first employee, did tons of editing
Which is where you actually started to
for
learn
That
stuff.
Sound.
Right.
And that was kind of like my first after college job while I was still developing my clients, still learning a lot. I got a lot to learn at this point yet, but I kind of had decided that going to school, paying thousands of dollars for credits was not the best place anymore, that I was better off kind of pursuing it on my own with a lot of knowledge to back up some further learning on my
Gotcha.
Said very well. That's what when anybody asks me, I say it not as well as he did.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, because like for
Well,
me,
thank you.
I went to school. It helped me stand out with other interns with Crummett and stuff. But
Yeah.
when I actually started learning is when Crummett would yell at me and kick my ass.
Right. Put
Exactly.
you in
Yeah.
the trenches.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yep.
I always
And I'll tell anyone, like, the majority of what I am doing now as a professional engineer comes from what I learned from Dustin and or what I learned
wow.
like
Right.
those two individuals and working with both of them,
Yep.
I think made me the person that I am today in terms
Absolutely.
of working on
So-
records and things
Absolutely.
like that.
So you're in school, you decide to kind of drop out. how did you get these gigs with these people?
It's a great question. How did I start getting gigs? I think a lot of them initially were folks that I knew from Belmont. Friends that we know were singers that wanted to do like an EP or had a song that needed mixing. I think originally it all just was folks that I just met around Belmont. And then I realized that we were all still super broke and I needed to branch out and find other clients that weren't broke college students, and started to figure out how to get myself out there on a broader scale. And again, all this is still going like where I still was, figuring out my workflow and how I was going to make things happen.
So
and
you were
the way I wanted them to in my
recording
head.
while in college, right? Is what that sounds.
What's that? Sorry.
You were still recording while you were taking classes in college.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh.
And even like the classes that I was taking, like there's projects where we had to go in the studio and record bands. So like a lot of it was even school related projects. And yeah, I was trying to do a little work outside of that too. But it's honestly, when you're a full-time college student with audio classes that are asking you to record things for class, there isn't a ton of time to like do passion projects, but there was a few that were made while I was still in school. Especially like the later years of school, like when I started caring less about classes and started caring more about sitting in my little bedroom studio, because I had a bedroom studio at one point in time, which was horrible. But I was more interested in sitting in front of my laptop and my pair of little speakers I think I had like I think I was still using my Mbox for a while, and trying to make things sound good. That was more interesting to me than trying to go to class.
That's where it was for me.
But I'm not
too.
recommending not going to class.
Yeah, because when I was in Full Sail, we would have a 4-hour lecture every day and then a 4-hour lab, hands-on lab, where we'd apply stuff.
Yep, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and so what I would do after our 8-hour day, most kids would go party or whatever. I was actually more interested in staying after in the labs if there was an extra seat, and I would just play with shit all day long. And that's where I actually learned. Like, I did the hours, I did the, wrote the notes, did all that shit, went to the labs, applied, got good grades. Even to this day, I still don't know what I graduated with. Like, I didn't give a shit.
Right, it didn't matter.
Yeah, because I was there to fucking learn. So, like, I would literally spend hours upon hours after my scheduled day just playing with stuff because that was more interesting to me. I didn't have a recording setup down in Florida, like, it sounds like you had, but, I mean, so I would just play. I would just play all goddamn day.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. It never felt like work to me.
I remember like one of the first, there's several audio classes that Belmont offers. The first kind of major one is Audio 2, where they put you in front of like a Neve VR, and they used to have an SSL 4000 G+, which they have now sold, which really makes me sad.
Damn it.
But I remember stepping up to that Neve and just being confused and lost because there are so many buttons on that thing, and there's so many different ways to route signal. And I would spend every day before and after class going through signal flow, and trying to remember how to route things to different places and do parallel processing on a console like that, and even just to get the monitor sense to work. Like, because there's on the Neve especially, there's all these buttons that have to be engaged before signal starts going places, and you can forget stuff super easy. So I would just spend, as long as the prof would let me, in the studio, hunched over this large format desk, and go through all of the different stuff.
Yeah. In other words, you paid your dues. That's what you're trying to say?
I guess so.
I think you did.
I
definitely think you did.
I mean, there's some Neve consoles where you have to turn on the pan knob,
Yeah, I actually think there was, I can't remember if it was the Neve or the SSL. I think that's the case. I think it was the Neve that you had to turn the
pan
one
on we had at Full Sail was the
before it would
AMEC
work.
9098i. I remember it. There were 11 consoles ever made. Full Sail had 10 of them. And half of them were sitting in a warehouse for a tax write-off.
That's super weird.
Yeah.
That's like the Focusrite console. That was only like 10 made, and they're actually really cool, and I think there's maybe 4 running.
Dude, the AMEC had a
As at this
whopping
point, and then a few of them were destroyed in,
525
like, a
megabits
flood
of
and-
storage. Yeah, you could store it on a floppy. Yeah.
Well, so we can get away from all the nerd talk.
Right.
No, just kidding.
Okay,
Oh, come on, I could do this all night, guys. Let's keep...
Back on track. So yeah, how did you land the gigs? I don't think you actually answered that. I think we got sidetracked.
Which gig specifically?
Well, your first like internships with
Well,
you
the
know.
Ryan thing was
Totally.
through school, right? You won
Ryan
the-
thing was the thing with Ryan, I'll start at the beginning. So the thing with Dustin, there was a student that I was at school with. Her name's Kara Madden, who was getting produced by Dustin, and she just posted on Facebook that, hey, my producer's looking for an intern. And I'm like, that sounds cool. Like, I messaged her like, hey, I am curious about your producer needing an intern. And that's how I got hooked up with Dustin, because that happened to be him. And we talked on the phone, went and visited him in the studio. He was like, yeah, you're cool. Come hang out and let me show you some stuff and help me out do my thing. So that's where that started. And that obviously ended up to working for his company and all that. And then the Ryan Hewitt thing, this was like a year and a half, 2 years later at least. I was actually working the Gear Expo at Vintage King here in Nashville, running front of house. They do like panelists and little demonstrations. So I was actually at the gig working. And a school called The Recording Connection was there and offering a full ride scholarship to what they call the Learn from Legends program.
Well, shit.
That's what
which I didn't even know what it was at the time.
Yep.
But it's this new thing they were launching at the time where you basically get to be an apprentice with an A-level mixer. And I'm like, that sounds rad. Let me put my name down for that. And that led to writing a cover letter about why I thought that I would be good for that program, which ended up into a phone call with the president of the company, or I say company, the school rather. And then he liked what I had to say, so I got to meet with Ryan at his studio at House of Blues, and we talked for probably an hour. And I was notified like maybe a few days later that I was going to be the one out of like 150 applicants to go apprentice with Ryan and do it for free, which was super rad.
So crazy. And for people who don't know, Ryan Hewitt, what are some of the things he's worked on, Travis?
He's a big guy.
Oh, gosh.
Look
well,
that up,
probably the most recent major record that he's done, he's worked on a lot of stuff since then, but the last major record that got tons of attention was the Lumineers record, the one that's got Ophelia on it. What's that called?
I don't remember. I'm well familiar with the record,
right
but I can't remember the name of it.
Anyway, so the most recent Lumineers record, but his Grammys with the Chili Peppers, he worked on Stadium Arcadium. He's worked on the Blink-182 records for engineering and mixing. He's done Need to Breathe, Brandy Carlisle, the Avett Brothers, just tons of awesome
monster. He's a monster.
Rock
He's a beast.
clients. He's insane.
So if I may, what were a lot of people get confused when they ask me too. So it wasn't the experience that got you the job per se. It wasn't the skill set. It sounded like you were just a cool dude. You talked for an hour on the phone. That's what kind of got you that job, right?
No, it's a valid question.
They were looking specifically for people that would benefit the most from it. And why I still need something like I was going to walk in the studio and know how to use all the gear. Like I could run a session in the studio, but there was a lot of things that Ryan could teach me. I'd never worked with someone like Ryan before in my life. So I was still very under the radar,
so what got
kind
you
of
the
making
job,
things
I
sound
guess?
good, but needed some more, ammunition, if you will.
Yeah.
So what got you the job then? Out of all those, you said hundreds of applicants, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think it was a combination of just being compelling, wording is everything. It's like a job application at the end of the day. You've got to impress people, but not be a dick about it kind of thing.
Can you give me an example or give people the example?
I think... Sorry, you broke up there.
Oh, it's all good. So what do you mean by that? Can you give an example?
About presenting yourself?
Right.
Yeah, I just think it's, being... how do I want to describe this? It's so much harder to describe it when I'm actually not doing it.
I mean, instead of... my guess is you were genuine, you were yourself, you were kind, you were present, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Ryan talked about that in that Pensado's Place interview, how he immediately connected with you because you actually tried to connect. And you weren't trying to be someone you weren't, right?
That's right. Actually, I'm now remembering that a little bit. Yeah, we did. That was part of the interview on Pensado's Place where he mentioned the qualities that he saw in me from just meeting me, how he saw that transferring to being a successful engineer and why he kind of pulled me into the program. Like this guy, I want to show him some stuff because I can see some stuff in him. But yeah, I think what's cool about this industry too is, we like to twist knobs and things, make stuff sound good, and I love to do that. But a lot of it is being the best version of yourself.
Yep.
You know, clients are very particular about their art, and I really like to call it art because it is. Artists are very sensitive,
Right.
and that's great, and that's okay. And as engineers, as the people working on making their art reality and sound awesome and work for the consumer, you know, whatever you want to call it, we have to be very careful about how we go about things. And, you know, when we're producing a vocal, like, we want to get the right take, but we also don't want to put the singer in a corner where they feel uncomfortable when things aren't quite working out. You have to kind of navigate the situation. Like, all of that stuff kind of goes into that. It's not just being a good engineer. You know,
Right.
if it was just being a good engineer, you know, a lot more people would do this, but there's
School
so
would
much
be
more
sufficient
to what
at
this
that
job
point.
entails.
Yeah. Well, so
What's that, Neil?
Well,
I said at that point school would be sufficient, but like you said, there's a lot of nuances and, like, for lack of a better term, kind of like ego manipulating, not manipulating, but taking care of it, you know, like, because these are people with art, and, you know, it's like you said, yeah. Anyway,
yeah, it's not.
I think
just
too,
technical.
going like one step further, is you can't really teach creativity. Like, you can again teach someone how to use a compressor. You can tell them how a compressor works. You know, the variety of different compressors out there, but telling someone how to use a compressor in context of a song, that's something that's really hard to teach. You have to kind of figure that out on your own. Like, why would you choose an 1176 over an LA2A?
Right.
What do they do differently? Like, how, like, all of these different things go into making actual music that sounds good. It's not like, I'm just going to slap a compressor on this and call it a day. It's way more than that. And it's
Right.
very convoluted and confusing and almost black magic kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
that's the stuff that, like, makes records. It's not just putting stuff on, setting a few knobs. It's much more in depth.
and what people forget too is if your vocal melody sucks, no compressor's gonna fix it.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, people often will come to me with, like, very poorly recorded tracks, and I do a mix. And, like, why does it not sound like the other stuff on your website? I'm like, well, it just doesn't. It's just not as good. And there's
Yeah.
nothing that I can do to make your song or recording sound better. It's just, that's not the reality of what we do as mix engineers. Even like producers, if you just don't have a good song to work with, there's not much you can do to make it anything better unless the artist is willing to reformat the song, the form, the melody, the progression, whatever it ends up being.
there's not much
There's
you can
only
do.
so far average sounding songs or average songs can go.
So well then, with that said, Travis, obviously you're mixing for the most part these days, almost exclusively. Now, why? I mean, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit a couple minutes ago, but why mixing? Why not producing? Why not engineering? Is that something you want to do more moving forward, or do you think that's just your natural sort of skill set is being a good mixer?
It's a great question. This is something I actually figured out while I was at Belmont. This is probably like the one thing that Belmont helped me figure out as an individual, because they put you through the whole steps. They want you to record and track bands, a full live recording session. They want you to produce. They want you to do all these things, and I did all of it.
Yeah.
And even after Belmont, like, I was still trying to do a lot of things. But what I realized is, you said it, like, my natural gravitation and I think kind of talent was towards mixing, and not at first. Like, I was a terrible mixer. When I was in school, like, I couldn't figure anything out at all. Like, they were just really bad. But when I kind of applied myself and started thinking about, like, how my brain works and how I like to hear things and put things together, I kind of started thinking, like, what if I kind of try more of this mixing thing, a lot more, what's the word I want to use? Focused. And I just started researching mixing hardcore. And I took actually one of the advanced mixing classes at Belmont, taught by Joe Baldridge, who's got a lot of credits to his name and things like that. That was probably one of the most helpful classes at Belmont, was Joe's class.
Nice.
Where we actually learned a little bit on mixing, and where I learned how to do parallel processing and all that good stuff. I think it kind of comes from, too, when I was actually in band. You know, if you've never been in a band, like a concert band, not like a rock band,
Yeah.
you have to learn to listen to the other sections from like 20 and 30 feet away.
Absolutely.
And you have to use your ears very actively.
Yeah, I was in
And so I was
symphonic
doing
band in
that
high
for
school.
years.
Yeah, I did that too.
And yeah. And you learn how to listen. And I say that, like,
Yep.
everyone hears, you know, unless you have a horrible thing where you can't hear. That'd be so horrible. But
No.
to learn how to use your ears effectively, and at a higher level than most people, that's when you start to be able to kind of discern different textures and even
That's what
just
Chords
balances
doesn't
of
do.
instruments and chords and things like that. And I kind of was almost, the way I like to describe it is like I was being trained to be a mixer long before I even knew about audio because of what I was doing with, playing trumpet in these jazz bands and concert bands and marching band and all that stuff. Like I was just kind of learning how to mix at a very young age.
Well,
And then I got a pair of headphones.
Well,
Like
'cause-
I still have them, a pair of Shure 840s, and I would just listen to music endlessly. And I just love to listen to music. And I would started to play guitar, taught myself how to play guitar, and I would learn how to play a lot of the stuff by just listening to it. I could just pick out these background parts and would teach myself by ear. And that kind of also told me to isolate things in a mix, kind of focus in on it in my head, figure out what they were, and then put almost the mix back together again, even though I'm just listening to a final song that's been mastered.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like I could just hone in on certain things, hear what they were, and then pull
Yeah.
back,
You just
big
said what I was
picture.
gonna say.
Yeah.
It's very, very weird, but most people can't do it.
So, well, then, if if someone that becomes, a mix engineer, and that's mostly what you do, for people that don't know, let's just assume someone's listening to this that isn't clued in on this industry, just the average folk listening. Now,
Sure.
So basically, what that means is you're taking music that's already been recorded somewhere else, produced by a different person, and then sent to you so that you then mix that.
before we were called mix engineers, we were called balance engineers.
Right.
If that helps.
So
Really?
okay. Well, so
I actually didn't know that.
now do you find that there's a sense of there's almost like you have to let go of some of the power, right? Like you have to know that I don't have any control over how this was produced. Not really. This is going to be sent to me
Right.
the way it is, and then I have to take something that someone else did, and I have to make it the best it can be. Is that something you are attracted to, or that you still continuously find hard? Like talk
Yeah,
about that.
I
a little
actually really love it. It's so much fun to work on someone else's creation. Like I've put so many hours into this song. We love the parts. We got great players on it. The song's awesome. I love taking when a project is done being recorded, like this, the song is finished. I love taking it at that point and then making it sound the best it possibly can. And some producers can do that. Like I know tons of friends of mine that are producers and great mix engineers. That's awesome. I can produce. My musical skill lately, because I've been focusing so much on engineering,
Yeah.
I've kind of laxed on it.
Sure.
Like I'm not as good a guitar player as to be.
Right.
I haven't played in a band in a long time. So I'm just kind of rusty on that stuff, which is kind of why I still focus on mostly mixing versus like trying to produce a band and being really good at it. So I love that challenge of like taking someone else's passion project and getting passionate about that project and then making it more awesome than they can possibly imagine. That's super fun for me. And just even the puzzle of it too, like getting 60, 80, 100 tracks of sounds and trying to put them together in a way that sounds awesome. I love that. It's
many
just a
hundreds?
blast.
Yeah.
I just made a joke. I was
And
like,
also pain in the butt
only
sometimes,
100
but-
tracks?
Hey, I was just giving rough estimates.
Dude, I worked with bands where there was one song that was over 600 tracks.
Jesus Christ. Was
That's
that
insane.
9 Inch Nails or something?
No,
Damn.
I'll tell you
I-
that later.
That's an interesting point too. Talking about track count, I watched a little bit of a thing CLA did with Waves. I don't know, last week he did like a little live Q&A thing, and he was talking about how he preps his songs for mixing, and he said it great. He likes to keep things as concise and as organized as possible because when you're in the moment of hearing things for the first time and mixing, you don't want tons of tracks and like a million background vocals and 10 tracks of claps. So in my mix prep, I go through and I'll take like the background vocals and the percussion and things that kind of belong together naturally and kind of start submixing them. So my track counts go down a lot before I actually get to the mix. Like I think the one I just did for Bunkface came in at like 80 something, which isn't too bad. But when I was done with the mix prep, it was down to 20.
Yep.
And I think actually the final mix, because there's a few vocals that I put on other vocal tracks so they made sense, I think I'm probably down to like maybe 55. So I just try to make things as easy as possible.
Yeah, I started applying that. Something I learned kind of late. I did that maybe 6 or 7 years into my career. But so that begs the question. So how do you? So you must be pretty confident. So when you're committing stuff, like say you have 10 tracks of claps and you commit them down to a stereo track or whatever. So are you like EQing those and like limiting, compressing all that into one with some reverbs printed, or like what is your consolidation process?
I think it really depends. If I hear something right away that needs to be fixed, I'll definitely maybe EQ it or compress it right there. But a lot of times that stuff is usually fine as is. And if the engineer did their job and the producer did their job, you don't need to do a lot to that stuff anyways, at least in my experience. So we'll just print it with no processing, maybe do a quick balance, like make sure that nothing sticks out kind of funky, and then just print it and be done with it. And then when I get into the mix, yes, I'll maybe apply some compression, some reverb and things. Okay. But a lot of times I don't do much processing when I'm doing that prep work, unless something really jumps out at me that needs to be done right then and there.
Right.
I kind of just go with the flow.
Cut the fat, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Travis, all the stuff that you've done, I mean, you've worked on a ton of wide range of genres and a variety of different kind of bands and artists. What's something that you kind of want to do, or is there a type of music you want to do more than others, or a type of artist you want to contact, or are you just kind of open to whatever?
Really, I'm open to whatever. What's that?
I think I burped.
Oh, excuse you.
Yeah, keep going.
I'm open to whatever. I think I'm gravitated more towards rock and pop.
Yeah.
I got into pop music in college and worked with a pop artist for like a good year and a half, and just discovered pop music. Like, this is really cool. Like, all the sounds and textures are awesome. So I've been having a blast mixing pop songs.
Yeah.
Which is a genre that I'm still relatively new at. But I think I approach mixing pop a lot different than other maybe pop mixers, which kind of sets me apart, I think, from the genre. That being said, I grew up listening to rock, and I love big guitars and massive drums.
I think you'd be good at it.
And I love mixing rock records.
I think you'd be really good at it too. I know you've talked about it with me a few times. You've listened to some rock records, and you're like, dude, I could have nailed that.
Exactly. And the last rock thing I mixed was for the band May, which was their self-titled record, which came out, I think, like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And that was a lot of fun to work on. That was like my first real big project.
Sounds great.
And I did a lot of learning on that. That was actually, I mixed that while I was interning with Ryan. So that project was going on while I was with Ryan, which was really cool to kind of actually bring some of those mixes to him at the appropriate times and kind of get some feedback, which was awesome.
For sure.
But I haven't really mixed a rock project, like a true rock project, in a while, and I'm kind of itching to do it.
Yeah, well,
my body
if
is ready.
anyone's listening out there, I think it'd be really good.
He'll do it for free.
He'll do it for free.
I can't.
Nope.
Get this guy out of here.
Oh, unfortunately not.
No, but it's just fun. Like, I'm a guitar player. I've got all my guitars still. Like, there's just something awesome about just that, sound of rock music. And two, I think in the age, if we're getting really nerdy here, the age of music where Spotify has limits on how loud you can limit things, I think rock music has a great opportunity to start really sounding awesome. I listen to a lot of rock stuff, from the past, several years, and it's fairly compressed and has very minimal dynamic range. And I think we're at a point where we can start making rock sound even better as a genre, and just have more openness to it, have greater dynamic range, greater frequency response, and just bigger. Just based on kind of how Spotify and YouTube and even iTunes Music is playing back songs on their platform and adjusting the volume depending on how loud you've mastered it versus how quiet you mastered it. I think it's really cool.
Well,
if that makes any sense at all.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Tell people about the studio you work out of. You're at home. This is your own.
It looks really fucking cool. I want to know all about it.
The pictures are
Thank you.
On Instagram.
Yeah. Looks way cooler than mine.
So the whole story is I was renting apartments for a long time, basically since I moved down to Nashville, and had studios in all of these apartments, which was cool and fine for a period of time. I did a lot of good work out of these apartment studios. But I got to the point where I was very tired of having to pack up my studio and move every 2 years. That really sucks. I couldn't grow a lot. I was kind of at a point where I couldn't make my studio any better. Like, there was nothing else I could do because I knew I was going to have to leave, and I couldn't do construction on the walls because I was going to have to pay the landlord something. I just was very tired of having a mobile studio, if you will. So this past spring, I was house searching, found a house that the owner had built a studio in the basement like 8 years before. And I mean, really, it's a real studio. Like the ceiling's floated. There's a sound lock between my mix room and the tracking room next door. Whole 9 yards. And so I purchased this house, took the room I'm in now, which is the mix room, down to the walls, hired one of the guys I do mastering with who has built studios in the past. He came in, designed the room you see today, built it.
Looks great.
And here I am. And
It's
it's been great. I love having
sounds
a dedicated spot to work out of that is not in some random part of the house where people can just walk by and like make their dinner while I'm literally trying to EQ a snare drum or something. It's pretty hard to EQ snares with people like sauteing mushrooms, if I'm honest.
For sure.
So yeah, it's just, I just love having like a place now. Like this is my place. It's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I can just work in here till I want to. It's not going to bother anybody. You know, it's awesome to have an actual studio that I can just stay in and work out of.
And it's in your house.
And yeah, the design, it's simple. You know, there's a lot of rock wool insulation everywhere. It's a super tight response. Big bass traps in the back, which are conveniently hidden.
Nice.
The way we designed the room. And people like always ask me too, like, man, that's a lot of insulation. And yeah, it is. But really, the size of my room and the way that we designed it, we didn't want a ton of reflections to where things would kind of get skewed. Like it's really a fine-tuned mix room, and people that actually come here and listen to it are like, holy crap, you were right, this sounds amazing.
Wow.
This is exactly what it needs to be.
Right.
So yeah, and it's like hard to like tell someone that doesn't know what this sounds like until they actually can come and listen.
Right.
And then they understand. And too, like the speakers too, if you've seen in my photos on Instagram,
We're actually
I get tons of
looking
flack
at
for
them
this.
right now.
I'm mixing on a pair of B&W speakers, which are more known for their place in hi-fi audio for just kind of the house kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like rich people buy them to put in front of their TVs, which is cool, I guess. But they're actually great sounding speakers. And the guy that, again, does my mastering and built the room recommended them to me because he masters on a pair, not of mine exactly, but a different pair. And it's like, man, these are great speakers. They're not that expensive, honestly. And I think you would like them, and they would fit the room size. They'd fill the room up to what you need. And I went and heard them at another studio that he built and was blown away. Like, these sound massive and are hyper detailed. And so I got a pair, and I've been working on them since I finished the studio, and they're just fantastic.
What's the
the imaging's super tight.
What's
that?
What's the name again?
They're B&W 683s. B&W stands for Bowers and Wilkins, and it's a British company.
Cool.
And then the amplifiers, if anyone cares, are Emotiva Emotiva UPAs? I don't remember what the amps are. Emotiva something.
No, and I love the aesthetic too. Those lights look really cool. Like all that wood table on the side. It looks really nice.
Yeah, thank you. I've got work to do in this room. Like, I want to expand my little hospitality table to something a little bigger, because it's the one that was from my old studio, which is a lot smaller. So I want to get a bigger one to hold more stuff. I want to get a few more things to kind of finish the room out. I want to get a flat screen to put up on my iMac at some point, some end tables for my couch and chair. The room is like workable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm obviously doing work, but there's things that I want to do to it in the next year or so to kind of finish the vibe and
Cool.
That's
little aesthetic look of
exactly
it.
where I'm at. I've been in, because I'm in the basement of my house as well.
Sure,
I've been
yeah.
here for like 2 years. I've got some like panels on the back, and like I've even got a fireplace in here, believe it or not.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But no, so bar in the back, but yeah, I've got like it's a fucking endless goddamn project. Like I know the struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the first like 2 months, I didn't have doorknobs in any of the doors in the studio because they didn't look good. So I took the doorknobs out. They're like gross color brass, like shiny brass. And so I finally, like, one day just bought, I think I had to buy 4 doorknobs, like $350 for doorknobs for 4 doors. It's not a joke, people.
Doorknobs alone.
Well, so people can kind of know you as a person as well. Like, what other than you as a mix engineer and a music feller, what are some of the things you're into? Like, what are your hobbies?
That's great.
What do you do?
Hobbies. Man,
Long walks on the beach.
what are my hobbies? It feels like I don't
know.
have any hobbies
Whenever
these days.
people ask me, I'm like, I work.
I mean,
This
Yeah.
is my hobby.
music is the hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I'm able, I love getting outdoors. When I was in
Okay.
Canada on this tour, we had an off day in Banff. which is right near the upper
Gorgeous.
northern Rocky Mountains
Yeah,
in Canada.
beautiful.
And just walking around and hiking these areas that are just absolutely beautiful and remote, I just get a lot of fulfillment out of that. It just gets my adrenaline and blood flowing.
Awesome.
And even like my studio, if you look at it's kind of hard to see because the actual colored walls are not the front, but my studio is green and earthy brown. I love earthy colors
Right.
and like nature type things. So I kind of designed the studio around those color palettes. I just love the outdoors. I like to do archery stuff. I have a compound bow that I like to shoot
Oh, do you?
occasionally when I have time.
have a
Oh yeah,
compound bow?
I love doing
Oh,
that.
cool.
I'm super into that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
me too. I'm into shooting. I don't have a bow, but I like to shoot guns and crap like that.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I love to do that when I have time,
Yeah.
and it's always been fun for me to kind of do outdoorsy type
Absolutely.
things. I love watching movies. I love good
I'm a
food,
huge
good
movie
wine.
buff.
Me and my girlfriend will go get a nice meal and kind of have an evening occasionally when
What
both of us are not exhausted
what movie
from
have
work.
you seen lately that you would recommend?
Here we
I've
go.
seen them
Oh,
all.
gosh.
I watched
Here we go.
all goddamn
James and
movies.
Travis on movies. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge
Dude, I
movie
love
guy.
watching movies. I think recently, what I just watch? I watch so many, it's hard to keep up.
Have you seen
Well, I
it?
tell you what, I just watched the new Jack Reacher movie.
Oh, is that any good?
Not good.
Oh, really?
It's
It
not
looks
good.
Terrible.
I thought it was not good at all.
Looks terrible.
The first one's super cool. I loved the first one, and I was hoping the second one would kind of follow up, but I didn't think it was good.
What about
So maybe
what's the other John Wick? Do you like John Wick?
I just
badass,
watched
dude.
the first John Wick.
You got to go see the
That's
second
what
one
it is.
too.
Yeah, John Wick, the first one.
It's so
I
over
liked
the
it.
top.
I'm curious to see if the second one is also as good as the first one.
Yeah, I
I love
it's just
Keanu Reeves. He's just a
Yeah,
badass.
it's ridiculous. There's YouTube videos of him training for that movie, and just unreal.
I've watched
I'm a
him.
big
It's
nerd.
intense.
yeah, it is intense. So have you seen It? The clown movie?
No, I don't think I've seen
Dude,
it.
it's
Oh, that's the new
rad.
horror one,
Yeah,
right?
But it's not really scary. Like I'm a huge horror movie guy, but it's really not scary.
Okay.
It's like very Stand By Me, fucking like Spielbergy. Like it's hard to explain.
Okay.
It's like a coming of age kid movie almost. It's really good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would definitely watch
Definitely
that.
go check that out.
I've been on when we were on tour. We were watching a lot of like Steven Spielberg movies, and we watched a movie. Oh crap! I'm gonna forget the name. One of his movies I haven't seen was like I need to just watch tons of Steven Spielberg movies, because he's just one of the best movie makers I think of our time.
Oh, agreed.
There's also one
there's
with
a
Tom Hanks called
documentary.
The Bridge.
There's a
What's
documentary
that?
on HBO. I said there's a documentary on HBO about Spielberg right now. It's really good.
I think that's what we were actually watching
Oh,
the
okay.
documentary in the bus, and it was like we need to watch tons of Spielberg movies because like this guy is awesome.
he's
We
the
kind
man.
of had a moment, like a come to Jesus moment. Like this guy really needs, or we need to watch more of his stuff.
They were showing
And
stuff.
everything I've ever seen is just
They
amazing.
were showing stuff as Spielberg when he was a kid, like a little kid, and he was making these home movies with his buddies. And like, for instance, he was so creative. They'd have like these fake war scenes where him and his friends were running through like the desert of California or wherever they were, and to simulate gun rounds, like bullet rounds, being hit by their feet.
Uh-huh.
They'd step on these little like seesaw boards to kick up dirt behind him. It's just like he's been that creative his whole life, and
I love
it's
it.
unreal, dude. The amount of the
I
volume
like
of
if
work
I was
he's
not
done.
doing audio, I would try to be in the movie industry. I think the making of movies are so fascinating. I
Agreed.
would love to watch a movie being made,
Agreed. I actually
and even
took
from like a
script-
mix standpoint.
I took a screenplay writing class for a while, and I was really into that. But yeah, that's like an
I just get
alternate life for me, doing movies.
Totally. I've always been like a huge fan of the opera fan, and growing up in high school, like before I was doing audio specifically, I was actually a lighting designer, which is why I like
really?
good lighting and why my studios
Yeah,
look
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
well. So I did lighting for ages and got into theater and watched things like Phantom of the Opera and Rent and Chicago and all of these shows. So me and my girlfriend just watched Phantom of the Opera down in the studio. And I'm like, holy crap, this movie sounds amazing.
Right.
And I'm like, how do they mix these movies?
Yeah.
Like, it's honestly some of the best engineering, I think, in the world, honestly.
If you want to talk
How
about
good this
track
stuff
count, they have track counts.
Oh, I can only believe it.
Unbelievable track counts.
Yeah.
So,
Like, I don't even know how you approach to mix a movie. Like, it's way over my head.
so one of the guys that's on the stateside roster that I represent, Ryan Lewis. Have you talked to Ryan, Travis?
Yeah.
Super rad.
So
guy.
so he's
I actually have not talked to him yet.
We definitely got to introduce you to him. You'd get along with him.
He's like
really
my
well.
favorite person in the world.
Yeah, he's the nicest guy ever.
Yeah.
No kidding, that's great.
Fuck you, Ryan, if you're listening.
Fuck you.
No, but he's actually moving into a studio in West Hollywood with a guy. And anyway, they're going to have a what's it called? ADR. They're going to have an ADR.
Yeah,
room.
ADR. Yep.
Yeah, so they're going to be doing some of that like overdub stuff for movies because they're down in Los Angeles. But anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting. It's going to be pretty cool.
That is super interesting.
Yep.
That's like one thing too. If you want to make movies, I think the only place to do that really is in Hollywood.
No.
Like there's no other place in the world that
Agreed.
that does that.
Dude, and when you're down there,
Which kind of
feel it.
sucks, but
Yeah. I mean, there's a Portland movie scene. I'm sure there's a Nashville scene, but if you're gonna really do it, you got to go down to LA for sure. No question.
fun fact, I've been an extra on Nashville many times, the TV show, which is
No
filmed right
kidding?
here in town.
Oh, I've never seen that show. That's like a country. Who's the blonde girl that's in that?
Hayden Panettiere.
Oh, that's not who. Okay, I was thinking of someone else. I thought she was from Friday Night Lights. That's something else.
Oh, that's Connie Britton.
That's Connie. She is in that. Connie Britton.
Well, she just got killed off last season,
Oh,
so she's no longer on. So.
Oh, I was a huge Friday Night Lights fan.
I was actually one of the last scenes I did was actually like just after her death, and like the label was arguing about like what's gonna happen to all of her licensing and crap, and I was like part of like the business team. I think it's so much fun, and actually funny story.
cool.
Again, this is getting really out there, but I'm a big what's that TV show? West Wing. I'm a big West
my
Wing
god!
fan.
You just hit my nerve.
My roommate is so
Travis.
into West Wing.
Oh,
So-
you have no idea. That's my jam, dude. I've seen that show. That and Band of Brothers are like the two shows I've seen.
Dude, I need to watch Band of Brothers.
So good. Yeah,
This is
West
gonna blow
Wing
your mind
is-
then.
is one
So
of
the guy that plays Danny Kincannon,
Yep. Gotcha.
the journalist,
Mhm.
remember him? He was directing this episode of Nashville that I
No
was
way.
last in.
The redhead guy.
Yeah.
He was in
Yeah.
He was in Stand By Me, if you remember him.
Stand by me.
Stand By
I haven't seen that. I actually haven't seen any other movies that he's in
Obscure
or TV
reference.
shows besides The West Wing.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm on set and just like, why does he look and sound so familiar? And then it hit me like, oh my God, he's in The West Wing. This is amazing.
Nice.
Neil's got one question for you, and then we're going to take our ceremonial pee break
Yes.
that we do in the middle of the show.
So I'm curious.
I love it.
What is it like a day in the life of a mix engineer in Nashville? So So from
Well,
when
I
you,
can
when
tell
you
you
wake
what-
up, you get your coffee, you masturbate, you shower, whatever. You know what is what is your typical Monday through Friday day?
That's great. Yeah. So, yeah, this is how it goes. I wake up. My girlfriend gets up before me because she has to go to work a little earlier than I do. So we wake up, we hang out for a few minutes. I usually stay in bed and scroll through Instagram for like a good 30 minutes usually. Get up. I try to be in the studio by 10 a.m. A lot of times it's 11 because I'm lazy.
Sure.
No, I'm just not a morning person. I'm just not a morning person.
Me
Just
neither.
mornings for me are just hard. So I like to get in. I check my email immediately. That's like the first thing I do. And even sometimes I'll do emails upstairs, like on my laptop or something, because it's convenient. And usually, if it's a normal day, which again days vary a lot,
Right.
a lot of times the first thing I do is mix revisions. If I'm working on multiple projects, I will get in, get some mix revisions done, and back out again as quickly as I can. If I don't have any revisions to do, I may do a mix prep. If songs are waiting to be prepped to be mixed, I'll do that in the morning. And then that usually takes, maybe 2 to 3 hours, depending on how much I have in terms of that other kind of non-really hardcore mixing stuff.
Per song?
And then,
Takes 2 to 3 hours per
What's that?
song? Or per project?
say that again?
You said it takes 2 to 3 hours? Is that per song or is that per project?
That's kind of just my morning routine, is like all that stuff that I described usually takes me 2 to 3 hours. Like to do all my emails, do my social media
Oh, I
stuff
see.
for the day, do any mix revisions or mix prep that I may have, like all of that kind of administrative work, if you will,
Okay.
kind of takes up we'll call it the morning. Depending on how long it does or doesn't take me, I may start a mix earlier, but a lot of times it takes me to lunch. I'll eat lunch, clean something in my house because I live in my house or the studio's in the house. I'll do like a house chore, and then I'll come back and like mix a song, and then I'll just be mixing until I'm done.
Until
usually.
I
And
call
I
you.
generally will try to get a song done in a day. The last song I mixed was a little slower than that because I was just taking my sweet time.
Yeah.
But if I'm more busy, I will definitely make a commitment to like mix a song every day, kind of a thing, and make sure I balance my time enough to make that happen.
Gotcha.
And that's pretty much it. Like it's not super fancy. It's a pretty cut and dry schedule. And there's things that can change, like, you know, if I have a vocal session come in, which does happen, you know, I will have to set up for that and make sure that things are ready and temperature set right and microphones are plugged in, headphones, mixes is
Temperature
checked.
is set right.
You know, it's a little bit
That's such
different
good
thing
point.
that I do, but, you know, I definitely account for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. That's kind of, again, that's a very standard day.
Yeah.
And there's can be a lot of variations.
And then
course.
my last point on that. So what mix prep? What does that usually entail?
It's great. I mean, my mix prep is pretty hefty. I asked my clients to send me raw files. I don't like getting delivered Pro Tools sessions because the way my preferences are in Pro Tools, like if I open up their Pro Tools session, all of my preferences just go away.
Oh, I see. Yep.
And I have to open up another of my session to get them back. And it's just a
set up
pain to
and shit
reset all
like
my
that,
preferences in their session because they're just different.
Yeah.
So I asked for raw files. I'll import those. I'll rename all the tracks to be more concise or understand what they are, because sometimes you get a track name and it's like,
Right.
what the heck does that even mean?
Yep.
So I'll do all that.
Yep.
Organize it all to where I want it to be, color code it. I do a little light editing, like if there's like noise in the vocal or like there's buzz in the guitar tracks, I'll take care of that. I'll do that, you know, printing and stem making if I feel like I need to. That's about it. And then I do import my mix template, which is just kind of like all of my, you know, parallel stuff that I want, all of the effects I could ever possibly need. You know, starting vocal chains, you know, kind of the general idea of what I usually like to use is kind of already preloaded. Get all that in. So, I mean, it's just kind of getting the song ready to just jump in and like ready to make sound.
So you have a mix template.
I just try to get it.
See, for me, that's like, I've never been able to make one just because I feel like every mix is so different. But when you're
Sure.
when you're a full-time mix engineer, I'm sure you have stuff that's like, this is my starting point. This is where I can base this off of.
And with that, I mean, my mix template's insane. Like, if I could send it to you, like, it would just be like, what am I looking at?
You totally
I have
should send it to
everything
me.
you'd ever possibly imagine accounted for in that template, and I may not use even half of it
Right,
if I feel like I don't need to. Like, it's kind of like there, so I can like look at the song, like, okay, I've got these types of tracks. It's this kind of a song. I'm gonna pull this, and this from my template, and now we're good to go.
Do you
I just try to make it as easy as possible to get working.
Right. Do you have one mix template or do you have like several?
It's a good question. I've thought about making more than one, but I just have one that I like to work from. But again, there's so much there that I kind of know what I need out of that massive one for a different type of song
Gotcha.
versus, you know, a rock versus pop song. Like if it's a pop song, I know I'm not going to need a lot of the parallel stuff or the distortions that I use for rocks, which is, I mean, again, it just depends. It kind of is more like getting a sense for what the rough mix is of the band, and then kind of guessing of like, I think I'm going to need this and this and this, and sometimes I have to import more stuff later. I'm like, oh, didn't end up using this, just make it an active.
So you have one big template and you kind of wean it down depending, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cool.
I mean, there's stuff on there that I've honestly never used because it just hasn't come in that I've needed certain things
But
that
one
I've
day it
prepared
could
for
come
but
in
have
handy.
never needed.
Nice.
What's that?
But
I didn't hear what he said.
But one day it could come in handy. So it's still in
Exactly.
Excellent.
Nice. All right. Well, let's go pee out of our pee-pee holes and do whatever you got to do, and
Sounds
we'll come
fun.
back. So Andrew will hit pause here, and we'll come right back in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Touch sticks.
Would you know my dick if you saw it in heaven?
All right. We are officially back. You ready now?
Would my dick be the same
Now we
Now he's ready.
I'm helping Andrew.
if you saw
We
it
good, Andrew?
in heaven?
Welcome back to the Stateside Podcast. Everyone peed successfully, I take it?
I was surprised at how big Travis's dick was.
Me
I
too.
really was.
I know. I was in the bathroom, and all of a sudden Skype just went bloop, bloop, out of nowhere. He was on my phone. I'm like,
I mean, it's a closely guarded secret, but I guess now it's out.
I mean, Travis had to pan the camera for like 5 or 6
5
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
Just to get the whole thing in.
Guy's got an iguana in
crazy.
his pants. Now that we got
It
that
actually-
out of the way.
Now that I'm horny, let's go on to current events, huh?
Yeah. So Travis, here's the point in the show where we fall off the rails a little bit.
Can't wait.
We just start talking about things that are going on in the world, and Andrew Carrion typically steers this ship. So listen up as you can, and you won't see the screen behind you on over here, but we can. So we'll try to fill you in as much as we can, along with the audio-based audience.
Yeah, well, he's like the
You're
audience.
like
Bring it
the
on.
audience.
Yeah.
Exactly. What you got, Drew?
All right, so a self-driving shuttle bus in Las Vegas was involved in a crash on its first day of service.
Oh no! Oh no!
Wow.
It was carrying
Why am I
several
not surprised?
passengers.
The vehicle carrying, quote, several passengers collided with a lorry driving at slow speed. Nobody was injured in the incident, which city officials say was the fault of the human driver of the lorry. Well, there you go. The man was.
Oh, so it's not the
subsequently
fault
given
of the
Yeah.
of the automated thing.
The shuttle was the first of its kind
Okay.
to be used on public roads in the U.S. Oh, what a.
And this was in L.A.,
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Was it a Tesla machine? Is what I want to know.
Dude, have you ever seen any of those Teslas, like self-driving cars?
I haven't.
Apparently
I
there was
have.
one in L.A. I didn't see it, but the person they pointed it out, and I didn't see it. But
There was
yeah.
one on I-84 recently.
Jesus, that's
Yep.
scary.
Yep.
It's kind of cool though.
Well, no, it was so.
It's
not,
cool.
Not my one of the bands
I
I
don't
worked
know.
with. Not my weekend. They were driving to the studio for drum day at Steffens, and they I got there before them, but they were driving. They said they saw a Tesla car, and the dude was literally reading a book as he was driving down I-84.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Travis?
Man, I don't trust that. That just makes me nervous on every level.
Yeah.
I like inputting information into the things that I'm either riding in. Like even like when I'm flying, like I always want to be like the guy in the cockpit, like seeing what's actually
Yeah,
going
Me
on.
too.
I'm not a very good passenger, I guess. is
Right,
what I'm
me
trying to
neither.
say.
That's why I don't like flying, because I'm a passenger. Yeah.
I mean, I love flying. Don't get me wrong. I love aviation and being in the air, but I would much rather be up where all the magic happens.
Right.
Because I'm just curious at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy, man. Yeah, we'll see. Like, as this starts developing more, how many people get injured, or like if it actually is successful.
Well, we had our first crash. So how many people were injured?
They said
Andrew?
nobody.
Nobody?
It said
Yeah.
nobody, yeah.
To
Oh.
no one.
No.
So,
I just don't know how it works yet. Like how I don't know enough about the technology to understand like how it actually works with traffic
Right.
and it can actually be successful at driving on its own. Like that's what I don't understand how it actually is happening.
Yeah, and it makes more sense. Like
If it
on
can
a
be successful long
freeway,
term.
on the grid, that makes more sense to me. But I'm thinking like going through a city or suburban streets. The little kid jumps out of nowhere. How does a computer know that?
Well, supposedly that's what
Exactly.
Tesla has a patent on.
Really?
Yeah.
And it'll actually
Supposedly.
stop
Well,
if
one
like,
of
a dog jumps out in the middle of nowhere or
Right,
something?
right.
Wow. That's fucked.
One of my favorite movies is Interstellar, and there's a great line from that movie.
Great movie.
Where oh crap, what's his name?
Matthew McConaughey?
The guy that plays Jason Bourne. No, the other guy from the Ice Planet. What's the guy that I always
Um,
forget names.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
Anyway.
about. Yeah.
He says like, you know why they send humans to do this job and not robots? Because robots can't improvise. That's I
Right.
think it's true. Like you
what
never know
Tesla's
what can
doing.
jump out. And like yes, you can write code for that, but I think there's still like a level of human input long term that I think is needed for stuff like that to be truly
For
safe.
now.
And again, cars
For
are
now.
dangerous. Millions, not millions, hundreds of thousands of people die every year in vehicles.
Yeah, but what happens when a world is run, like all the cars are run by a computer? Will that go down?
I don't
or
know.
Will that go up?
I don't know. That's a great question. I'd be curious to find out.
Right.
Honestly.
Well, whoever owns this fucking van, no, it's gonna go up.
Well, they already have like
Yeah,
self-driving
I think that's the thing. It was like, is if every car was on it, or if there was a separate roadway system for automated vehicles. I think that's the way to do it.
That's so
Right.
expensive.
Versus,
though.
like, trying to
There's
mix-
no way that any city could do that.
Right.
There's
Right.
no.
I
way.
know it's not hypothetical at all.
No. Oh, that's we shall see. as
Well,
things
I
go.
will say, and don't quote me on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Tesla tests, 0 crashes so far.
No
I
kidding.
think that's correct. I'm not sure, but
Holy shit.
yeah. So, yeah, whoever owns this shuttle bus, get your shit together.
You got a video here, Drew?
It's like
No.
No. Okay, never mind.
riding the bike without your handlebars. Like that just makes me nervous. Like I want to control what's happening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, I would fall asleep if I was in that vehicle, like trying to
Yeah,
I was the only one in the car.
that's the thing.
I just fall asleep in
I
cars
like
if
driving.
I'm not driving.
I actually enjoy driving most of the time.
Well,
True. Yeah.
In the envisioned future, I guess you could say, like that's like the luxury. Do you enjoy
Right.
it? It's like owning a horse.
To be fair though, it's like yeah, I like driving, but I also love being able to like check an email. Like I was talking to Travis earlier today, and I'm like taking notes on my phone while driving. He's like, "You're driving right now?" Jesus. So I mean, that would be really nice if I could just kick back and get some work done or watch Netflix. Like,
Well, it's
Exactly.
You could do that now with Uber or a taxi or something like
Right.
that, but
yeah.
But you could own the car
You can own
to
the car.
where you can just be doing business while
Oh,
you're
sounds
transporting.
amazing.
Yeah.
What you'd get done.
Yeah.
I bet these cars are like super expensive though to get. Like they
much is a
cannot be
Tesla?
cheap.
Oh, they're not cheap.
But
Yeah.
it's not as expensive as a luxury Ferrari or a Lamborghini. Or something.
Okay.
No, well, you'd
So
be
it's more than like your
surprised, man.
average
Really?
car, but less than a sports car or like a luxury car.
So the dudes in Not My
35.
Weekend are like huge into Tesla, and they were like basically educating me on this. When they told me, I can't remember how much it was, but when they told me how much it was, I was surprised at how little
It
was.
says Model
Really?
3 achieves 220 miles of range while starting at only 35,000 before incentives.
That's not that bad.
That's
what I
like
thought.
That's
Toyota
expensive.
Tacoma or something. That's not.
Yeah.
We'll see, but that's that one model though. That's not like the luxury Tesla that.
Yeah.
You know.
It's just like a well-equipped
Yeah.
standard vehicle.
Yeah,
But
it's
still,
like a sedan.
you get to A to B without having to do shit.
Right. With no gas either.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely the way we're going for shoe. For shoe.
I'm just holding out for the flying car thing, man. That
I
would
know
be
what
the day.
the fuck. How
That's the
come
one
we
I'm
aren't there by
waiting
now?
for.
God damn it! Every time I watch Back to the Future, I get so pissed. Like we're already past hoverboards. We're already past all that shit. God damn it! I drove here in a 1999 pickup truck. You know, where's my hover car? Where's my hoverboard?
That's probably more dangerous
so
than
cheated.
a self-driving car.
Dude, that car looks dope. We're
Yeah,
looking at a
but he's
video
not
of a
doing
Tesla
shit.
right now, Travis.
Yeah, we're looking at
A Tesla?
Yeah. I mean, that looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, it looks pretty fast. All the
Yeah.
cameras on it,
Right.
pretty accurate.
Oh, that's what all those are. There's like individual, left camera, right camera, medium range vehicle camera.
Oh yeah,
Man, it
it
has to be real time. So
is
it's
a
pretty
complicated
sharp.
algorithm, if you
Dude,
will.
that's nuts. The computers are gonna take over.
I already have.
Yeah, they already have. That's right.
I just have uneasy feelings about that in general.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
don't
Travis, have you seen the show Black Mirror on Netflix?
No, I've actually been meaning to start that.
Dude,
and
highly
it hasn't
recommend
happened
that.
yet.
So good.
Yeah, you like
They
that,
nailed
right,
it.
Andrew?
Oh,
yeah,
God,
yeah. Dude, it's dope. It's like what we're talking about. It's
Just like right around the corner with
Yeah.
the technology
and
and all
it's
that.
not like crazy. They're not like, it's not hoverboard.
No,
and
it just
shit.
kinda-
It's like integrated technology, the way
Yeah.
that it really is going to happen.
just right around the corner. All
Yeah,
of it.
check it out, Travis. It's really cool.
I'll have to do that soon. Like I'm about to be able to start another show. I try not to do too many shows at once because I like to just focus in on one thing.
What are you
but I
watching
think I'll
right
have to
now?
make that definitely my next
What are you-
intense.
what are you
or
watching now?
More involved watching. What's that?
What are you watching now?
We're watching. Me and Carson are watching Shameless currently.
okay,
which
I've never
is
seen it.
a total. it's a really strange, kind of raunchy, ridiculous show about a family
Yep.
that just goes through the worst things you can possibly imagine, but it's hilarious and very real in some senses.
Yeah,
And it's very entertaining.
I've heard nothing but good things. I'll have to check it out.
It's pretty funny. And like there's moments you're like, "Oh my god, that's horrible." And
Yeah.
I can relate to that on a very deep personal level, but holy crap, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. It's definitely like if you're not offended easily, it's worth watching. But if you like
Definitely
don't
not.
like certain things and get offended easily, like I don't recommend it for you because you're not going to like it.
Right. What else you got, AC? Any other stories going on?
I guess Corey Feldman. What do you do?
The what
this
did he do?
motherfucker
I don't even know the story. I haven't read it yet.
You want to read it?
So I guess officially the Los Angeles Police Department has opened an investigation to look into Corey Feldman's claims that a pedophile ring has long existed within Hollywood.
Ooh.
Wouldn't surprise me.
You ever heard about this, Travis?
I think so. What was the last part of that? Because I think I know what he was talking about, but I didn't hear it.
Corey Feldman, that the like child actor from the 80s, launches a campaign to
he's
make
been
a
talking
film.
about that.
Yeah, he's been talking about it. He's making a documentary to expose Hollywood pedophiles.
Oh yeah.
Yep, he says the Goonies actor tweeted Monday that he has taken the next step to, quote, expose the truth. I just completed a normal sit-down interview with LAPD headquarters. Special or what?
Formal interview, not normal.
A formal sit-down interview with LAPD HQ Special Division, and gave them all the info I know.
Yeah, I remember like because didn't Justin Bieber kind of come out and kind of start the attention on this topic
Bieber?
recently?
I didn't know
I
that.
thought he said something about it,
God, him
but
too.
maybe I'm totally wrong.
Where are
But,
you now that I need you? No one gets that, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
it's one of his songs.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, no,
I'm glad I
I've definitely
don't
heard
know the
about
reference.
this, and it's horrifying. Honestly,
It's horrifying.
it's just I mean, it's great that it's hopefully going to be stopped eventually. That people are coming out and coming forward, especially like even the sexual abuse stuff and assaults, all that in the news recently.
Yeah.
I think we're just
Yeah.
going towards a better world to live in. Hopefully, maybe.
Yeah, I hope, man.
Well, that's
Cross my fingers.
that's what I think. Like all this shit is all coming out at once, but it's
Yeah.
been like 40 years of pent up bullshit.
God.
So it's like,
Yeah, if not
I
longer.
mean, if there's one good thing about Trump being president, it's that people are having the courage to stand up about the shit they don't like.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, it's
one
crazy,
of those
man.
That's really well put.
yeah. So I mean, the world is changing, and I think it's going to be for the better in
Agreed.
the long run.
We hope.
I think it's kind of like I think we're going through that growing pain thing right now,
Yep, exactly. Yep.
which isn't necessarily all bad,
Right.
but it's a very interesting time without any question. Like a lot of things are happening that I think a lot of us didn't expect. Some good, some bad. Or just keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
What I like is that there's a bunch of bullshit that is like it's always been happening for so long, but it's just now becoming exposed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people are like middle finger to the world kind of shit. Like fuck you, we're tired of it. We're gonna fucking change it.
Yeah.
Which is
What
I
really
like.
blows my mind is the Kevin Spacey thing that happened last week.
Dude, crazy,
Not
right?
to like change topics.
Dude, so crazy. I'm such a huge fan of his as an actor. You know, what
I
the fuck?
know.
What a bummer.
I know. I'm just
Right?
like, it's kind of, I mean, a different topic, but like when Tim Allen died, I mean, when we like equate to celebrities that we like admire and things, like I've never met Tim Allen, his movies are amazing, but when Tim Allen died, I was
Allen
like, oh
died?
my God. Tim Allen's gone. And like
What?
Kevin Spacey,
Wait,
never
wait,
met
wait,
him,
wait,
but I
wait.
love
Whoa,
his actor's
whoa,
movies.
Whoa, pump the brakes. Tim Allen died?
Not Tim Allen, I'm sorry,
God.
Robin
I was
Williams.
gonna say,
Oh, Robin Williams.
Robin
Oh,
Williams,
Yeah,
Robin
even
Williams.
worse. Even worse. I mean, no offense to Tim Allen,
Classic
but yeah.
example of when I think something and say something entirely different.
No worries. Yeah, no, that was
freaked
a
out.
huge bummer. Huge bummer when he passed.
But just like you're broken. And the thing with like
Right.
Kevin Spacey, like he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah.
I love House of Cards.
Of course.
And now that show will never be the
American
same.
Beauty?
His career's over.
over.
You know?
Fucking over. And it's
And like
what
he's
a
a.
shame.
I mean, if this is all true, then great.
Right.
But I'm just like, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, what disappoints me is the fact that like what happened, you know, and again I think they're still allegations, right? They're not like proven, quote unquote.
I guess. I don't know. I can't
But
speak
like
on it.
what sucks is like in the culture of LA, this was like the status quo.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
and for the longest time, and like, you know, like he even said in his Kevin Spacey even said like when in his public apology or whatever, he was like, I don't remember that it happened, but if it did, I'm really sorry. But that's just goes to
Yeah.
show how meaningless those situations were. Like it was just the status quo in LA to do that kind of stuff. And so it, like there's a whole like paradigm shift, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
that I think is happening right now, which I think is good.
You,
It's just
you do bring up like an interesting point too about just the allegations of it. Like as far as we know, as outsiders, it is an allegation, but we like the community and the whole LA community has like definitely taken that and acted upon it. Like, you know, Netflix is pulling Spacey from all their programs. Like none of his movies are gonna be on there anymore. You know, his publicist I think dropped him, a number of the things.
Wow.
and it's a serious allegation, but at this point, is there really any true information?
Right.
That's
No,
where, that's
and
where
like
I'm
we-
at too.
I know. I agree. I mean, yeah, we've talked about this a few times on the show, but it is true. It's like, if none of this is true, I mean, it sounds like it probably is, but let's pretend it's not Kevin Spacey.
Exactly.
Just anybody that's accused of doing this, and it's not true, dude. I mean, that would suck. And honestly, like anyone, I think I just swallowed a bug.
Protein.
Oh man, that's like a metaphor for what we're talking about.
Yep.
Swallowed it.
Swallowed it. But no, honestly, like if you were even not that famous, you're just some guy, and someone accused you of doing something, you're guilty until proven innocent. It's not the other.
Well,
other way around.
here's the
And
other
it'll
side.
ruin your life.
Here's the other side I see, and maybe
Exactly.
Travis can relate, maybe not. But when you're on tour, you get talked to by a lot of people, right? Whether like
Right.
fans, females, males,
All day.
whatever.
All day.
Yeah, all fucking day. And so like you take a picture with somebody, like there was.
That's what I'm saying.
I've never told you this actually, and Travis, you're gonna hear this for the first like. But so I put my hand around a fan one time who was a huge Alisana fan. I was on tour with Alisana, and they ended up 6 months later ended up messaging Sean trying to get free merch because I sexually assaulted them because I put my hand around them when I took a picture.
But imagine if you were,
Even like
right.
Yeah.
You were Dave Grohl or something. Like you were.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. So it's like that's I find it hard to take this stuff seriously until proven guilty, kind of thing.
It sucks
But it's
because
like
you go
there-
both ways. It's like, but you also don't want to victim shame. You don't want to
No.
like, people who need to speak out have to have a space where they can do that. But it's fucked. I'm just like,
Well, I mean,
Yeah, what do
if
you do?
it, like when I messaged the girl who supposedly was upset about this, I was like, if that upset you, you should have said something. I would have stopped immediately. Like, no
Right.
big deal. Like, I'm really really sorry that made you uncomfortable.
yeah.
But I
What
mean,
did she say?
she never responded, and it eventually
Weird.
just dropped. But
Right.
it
So
was
she
one
just
of
wanted some free shit.
exactly. It was one of those things where it's like I'm taking a picture with a fan, and then all of a sudden, several years later, I get a message saying you sexually assaulted me.
Well, imagine being
Like,
like
fuck.
in like Motley Crue or some shit where they're just
Exactly.
tits out, dicks
Or
out
Kevin
all
Spacey.
day, or Kevin Spacey, yeah, where he's doing fucking amyl nitrates and touching little boys.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't
It's fucked.
flirting with people every night on. It's like fucking A. It's like
I think it's like the definition of a conundrum. Like,
moving.
I mean, we live by the laws that you're innocent until proven guilty. That's why we have a court system and a judicial system. Judicial system. God, that word's hard. But yeah,
but
all
the
of these
problem
things
is his show's canceled.
Yeah,
He
it's
doesn't have a
done. It's
job
over.
anymore
Right.
because of an allegation. See, I'm not big enough
And-
to where my career is ruined because of it, but
Right.
he is.
Right. Yeah, no, it's fucked.
I think I go by the way, like, please, if something happened, say it, come forward, and then let the due process do its thing. Because, I mean, people definitely come out and say stuff all the time that is completely untrue. And
Right.
not saying that this is true here at all by any means, but I don't think that it's a wise decision to just go off what people say, because people can be
Well,
really
Yeah, and
deceiving.
the problem is, Travis, people, and you could use this, what I'm about to say, you can apply this to anything, any political topic or any debate, whatever. People have a really hard time with duality or like numerous points at once. Like in this case, it's both fucked up that victims feel like they don't have a place to talk and they get shunned. But then it's also true that people are coming out and falsely accusing people and ruining their lives. It's both.
There's so many bands that I
So
know
it's like-
where
it's so fucked.
where they didn't agree to sleep with a fangirl, and then they got sued for sexual harassment.
Right.
I know probably 5 or 6. different
Yeah, I'm
people
sure it happens
that are
all the
in that
time.
boat.
It happens all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're of any clout or any celebrity status at all, you're
Whether
gonna
you do
get
the
that.
good thing or the bad thing, you're still getting fucked.
You're still getting fucked.
Yeah,
Well,
because you have all the attention on you, and
yeah. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. That's depressing.
Yep.
What do you got, Drew?
I guess people are pretty upset about Larry David's monologue. I haven't listened to it on SNL, but he was the past host this last Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't
On
watched
SNL.
this. Yeah, I haven't.
Read that headline there, Drew. Yeah, right there.
The debate over Larry David's Holocaust joke on SNL, bad taste or just bad comedy?
Ooh.
Question mark.
See, I didn't hear it either, but I heard about this a lot.
Have you seen it, Travis?
I
SNL?
actually haven't. I don't really watch a lot of SNL stuff, so I'm completely in the dark here. But
Do you know who
inform
Larry
me, what's
David
going
is?
on?
Travis, do you know who Larry David is?
No, I don't actually. Not off the top of my head.
He's the guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm, that HBO show. He co-created and wrote Seinfeld.
Okay, sure.
That dude. So anyway, yeah, he was the host on last week's SNL. And apparently, in the opening monologue, he made some joke about the Holocaust because he's Jewish, super fucking Jewish, and like that's
Sure.
right, Drew. Like that's the basis of most of his jokes is like
Yeah.
how white and privileged and Jewish he is. So he's always talking about that.
Uh-huh.
Like, that is Curb Your Enthusiasm as a show. He's walking around complaining
Okay.
about the smallest things possible, like and it's
So
hilarious.
why are people upset?
Well, let's watch it.
It's
Let's
7
watch it.
minutes.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Fuck. Well, let's see if we can find.
Let's skim through the summary here.
Yeah.
Ugly Jewish six person.
I've always been obsessed with women, and I've often wondered if I'd grown up in Poland when Hitler came to power and was sent to a concentration camp, would I still be checking out women in the camp?
What?
Yeah, it's fucking funny.
Hilarious.
What the fuck?
I mean, people, god damn it, they need
People
to
like to
fucking
complain.
relax.
Yeah.
Political correctness is just ruining everything.
Well, it's like what Travis was saying earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of comedy and art in general. Like, you're supposed to take horrible shit and work through it, right? Oh my god, some of this shit is amazing.
I think what's funny about this too is like probably the majority, again maybe not the majority, but a good number of people that are offended, like really offended by this, are not Jewish or anything to do with
That's
the
right.
Holocaust at all.
Yep.
Which again, it's a horrible incident. Like we all
course.
recognize that. Worst part of history ever.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not Jewish. I love Jewish people, but like if they want to make fun of themselves,
Yes.
not my business. Do your thing, whatever.
Agreed. And that's the point of comedy is to... what it does is it takes the power away from these horrible events like 9/11 or the Holocaust, whatever, these
Exactly.
mass shootings.
That's a good
Like,
point.
Yeah, if you can joke about it, you're taking that power away from the fuckers that did it. And that's the whole point of it. And that's what he's doing here.
I think there's so much power kind of going off that about just standing up to the things that are bad in the world, whether it's through comedy or through just actual factual
Right.
information. There's a
Agreed.
lot of fake news and just
Agreed.
very, convoluted things just happening with what's going on in the world today. If you just can stand up to it, be truthful about it, laugh about it, I think that honestly means more than anything.
This may not be a popular opinion, but for me, the whole political correctness thing, I can't stand it.
Oh, I'm right there with you.
I just can't
No,
stand it.
the problem with it is it's like...
If something offends you, don't listen to it.
Don't listen to it. Freedom of speech
Yeah.
is a pillar. It's one of the pillars of this society and this country and Western culture as a whole. And you need to be able to say what you want when you want. And if you don't agree with it, then the opposition should be able to fight back with their words. You can't ban speech. It's fucked, man. People are being banned from campuses to speak. People are being banned at like comedy clubs, and comedians are having a hell of a hard time right now. And that's really
I think
fucked up.
It's absurd, and I'm one of the people too. Like when I read about current events in the media, I will go to a variety of different news sources, of different political leanings,
Sure.
to see what they're saying.
Yep.
Some of it I'm not going to agree with. That's fine. Some of it I might agree with more, but I think it's important to kind of open yourself to other thinkings. I think we
right.
live in a little bit of an echo box, especially with social media on Facebook and other things
Yes.
like Twitter. But what's wrong with trying to understand another person that might think a little differently than you?
Agreed.
We're so like you're wrong, I'm right.
Right.
Drives me
That
crazy.
doesn't exist.
No, and the left versus right, it's team politics. It's Raiders versus the Seahawks. It's fucking bullshit. And
It's completely absurd.
it's absurd. And human beings are complex people. And, if you want to talk about each individual issue, I'm down to do that. But by no means would I ever subscribe to one side or the other. I used to be very loyal to one side. And
Sure.
I can't do it anymore. You know what? It's
And
pretty
that's
close-minded.
a great point. Is you can't. I mean, I think very few people are like one side or another in terms of political left versus right.
In
Yeah,
Portland,
Like, there's
a
definitely
lot
those people
like
that are extreme, like they
A
exist.
lot.
But I think the majority of individuals will fall somewhere in the middle and then have certain points of their political affiliation with another side because they
The
like,
majority
oh, I
of the
actually
United States,
like
yeah.
what this side thinks, but it's just there's no map to it.
Yeah.
But they try to kind of quantify it in a map sense to try to make it simple, but it's not that simple.
No, it's definitely not. And yeah, this I don't know, the whole PC culture thing that you brought up, Neil. Let's go back to that. It really is. It's pissing me off a lot. It's unfortunate because I mean, everyone sitting in this room and Travis on the other side of the country, we're all artists. Musicians, artists, and the whole point of this was freedom of expression. That's why we all got into it. And it started like back in the day when they used to put like explicit parental advisory shit on the albums.
Which they still do.
And they still do. And like the funny thing about that is like they first started to do that with groups like NWA, and all and like there's just a lot of like racism there too when they first started to do that. And what it did for that band is it made them even bigger, it made them even cooler, because now kids are like, oh fuck yeah. Like, this is like, cool shit. And anyway, I could go on about it for
Get some
Yeah,
quality
I'll-
explicit content on my Walkman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'll keep it brief because we try to stay away from political stuff. But so in California, there was a professor. I forget the college. Forgive me. But
Probably Berkeley.
he posted an article on the study of basically the idea of like gender, like do you identify being a male, a female, unisex, like that whole idea. And he was fired because he presented
Wow.
an opinion.
Wow, so that's so fucked.
Yeah, and like so, and there were protests in front of the college saying he was like a racist, a Nazi, of this whole fucking thing, but none of them actually read the article.
Well, they have a right to protest. They don't have a right to fight back, but you can't.
Right, but you got to be
'em.
educated. You got to read the article.
Yeah, and it's
That's
like
my point.
people are losing their jobs over stuff.
Oh no, his career's ruined.
There's a
It's
guy that released a memo on he worked for Google, and he did something similar.
Oh
He-
yeah, I heard about this.
You heard about that? Yeah, he said something. It wasn't hate speech. I mean, I don't really agree with everything he said, but essentially he was saying there is a difference between men and women in the workplace, and here are the differences. And people lost their fucking mind.
It was a study.
It
was a
no, it
study.
wasn't even a study. It was just his opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he cited some studies, sure. But
An
anyway,
opinion is a study.
they
in my
demanded his job, and the public demanded he got fired. It's like, god damn, and you're messing
Yep.
with someone's livelihood.
mind. Yep, and he will never work again.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's hundreds of examples like that. But
Remember
I
a
don't
time? Do you remember a time when we grew up where we could like express our opinion and that was the cool thing to do?
well, and yeah, and if some disagreed, then they would contest that opinion with their opinion.
debate class.
And you
Remember
debate.
that?
Yes, and
Yeah,
that's
not
the-
a thing anymore.
No, that's the world I grew up in. Like, hey, if you and I'll fight people that say stupid shit, like not physically, but you debate them,
Yeah.
get into a debate. But I would never go demand for their job.
How many
or some
people are in
shit.
the world? 7 billion, 8 billion, something like that.
Some insane number.
You really think we're all gonna have the same opinion? You really think
Dude, there's
that?
like 300 and almost 400 million in this country alone, I think.
Right.
How can there possibly
Coming from
be
different
two-party
cultures,
system?
different belief
Yeah.
systems.
One
like-
guy is supposed to represent our beliefs. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's just.
I feel like
Just
there's
man
so
up.
many people that have
Nut
such a
up.
small-minded view of the world. Like
That's
they
right.
don't understand how much world there actually is.
They
and why
don't
someone's never
understand
been
that the
anywhere
world
besides their
revolves
town.
more around themselves, in my opinion. That's kind of
Yeah.
a strong opinion, but I mean, in honesty, like seriously, there's more people in the fucking world than you. Like, I don't give a shit about your Instagram posts. I don't
Yeah.
give a shit about your individual opinion. Like,
Hey,
sure,
that's offensive.
I'll take it into account. But exactly my point, right? Like,
Well,
it's like, get over it.
Well, it's like you were saying, Travis. A lot of these people have never even traveled. They've never even been out there outside of their regional area. You know, I mean,
I think like this, the
Gives you
single
perspective.
greatest thing you can do is get out to somewhere you've never been before, to
Yes.
experience some
Absolutely.
other city, someone else's culture.
Yep.
And I've been lucky to have done that on a number of occasions with touring,
Right.
you know, in this country and out of this country. And I've learned so much about the world doing that.
hell yeah,
And I'm very lucky to have done that, honestly.
yeah.
And that's one thing I feel like we don't have the luxury of in the States is we don't see a lot of the outside world.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty isolated or insulated rather.
Believe it or not, there are people that think differently from you.
Hey, what do you know?
Anyway.
Well,
I don't believe it.
true diversity is just that. It's actual diversity, and it's welcoming and an open-mindedness to all walks of life.
And that's what drives me nuts is all these people that preach like, well, you don't believe with me, so therefore
Right.
you're wrong.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's not real diversity. That's your own
Yep.
formed version of. Well, anyway, Drew, what else? There was a couple other things on there. What do we got? Oh God, you had to go to there, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, but
26 dead in a shooting in Texas.
Here we go.
yeah.
Here it
Clear
comes.
seatbelts.
yeah, I know
Let's,
nothing about this. But
let's
yeah,
let's
here's
just
the article.
let's do this because I'm sure we're all pretty bummed about it.
Let's make it brief. It's
Let's make it
negative.
brief.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to the people that died. Fuck the guy that did it. Yeah, and I have other opinions on the matter, but I don't want to get too into it because again, it's like those opinions I have don't match up with the liberal base,
And that's what sucks is the fact that we
And-
don't feel comfortable voicing our opinions.
and I'm
anymore.
supposed to be that guy, and somehow it's like every time I hear people talking about that laws are going to fix this or something, I'm just like, yeah, it's never made sense to me personally, and I would love for someone to prove me wrong. I want to know where people are coming from, but
What's the headline?
it's all-
James,
it's very
I think we're similar
Yeah.
on that sense of understanding kind of what you were alluding to.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, that's
Wink,
what we were.
wink.
the one podcast with the goddamn animals guys.
Yeah.
We had that kind of heated debate, but we were all on the same page. We just did it in different. Went
Yes.
about it in different ways.
Andrew, I
What
think you had a video
blows
for it.
my mind about this particular incident, to just dive into one aspect of it,
Yeah, go ahead.
is I don't want to say the guy's name because I'm not into that of promoting the person that committed these
No,
acts of
God, no,
horror.
fuck no.
But the guy that did it, you know, was in the Air Force, discharged
Yep,
based on his priors, should not have been able to legally purchase firearms.
that's right.
We were talking.
And
about
just
the
that.
talking
Air
about it.
Force, didn't do their job, which
Yeah.
which broke the system in a sense. So the system most likely would have worked.
That's right. Agreed.
Somebody dropped the ball.
Agreed. Yeah, by
That
all,
blows
by all
my mind.
measurable, by the law, he wasn't supposed to own a firearm at all, and it was a clerical error on the federal government side to file him through the national background check.
and it's
so-
Trump's fault,
No, it's just
It's
no,
Trump's
it's just
fault.
big government. I mean, that's
according to CNN.
there's a lot of jobs
Yeah.
and a lot of moving parts and moving wheels. So eventually that's going to break down, and that's just my point. Is you can't rely on that. I mean, right? I mean, he's a fucking
Exactly.
madman. And so anyway, I think we all.
I mean, I've got my Instagram, which is public and stuff, but I obviously have private social platforms that's for me and my friends and my family that I post things to. And I made a post the other day about being personally responsible for yourself in any manner
Yes.
and things. And like,
Amen.
you know, we have the government to do certain things, which is very helpful in senses, but
You're in
in
charge.
the same sense, I don't want to rely on the government to protect me
No, that's not
or
what the
to
government's
guarantee
for.
me certain things
Right.
because I can't, like, I don't want to rely on them and all of a sudden it doesn't come through and then I'm screwed.
Well, think of how
And I
long
think-
it took for someone to respond in this incident alone. I mean, if someone hadn't engaged that asshole and stopped him from furthering attacking other people, then it took a long time for the police to arrive. And yeah, it was a small area in Texas, but it's pretty elitist and it's pretty, people always talk about white privilege, but it's pretty white privilege and elitist to say, well, the proper thing to do in this situation is to call the cops. Like, well, yeah, maybe if you live in downtown LA or Portland or New York City, where the cops
Even
get
then.
there in 3 minutes. But if you live in rural Texas, there's a 15 to 20 minute wait time.
More than that.
More than
Way
that.
more than that.
Dude, I have a friend out who lives in a town called Vernonia, Travis, which is like 45, about an hour west of Portland. And it's just a little podunk town. It's actually not that far from where me and Andrew grew up. Not far at all, really. And a similar thing happened, like it wasn't a mass shooting, but someone broke into their house. This guy's wife was a therapist. And a client of hers broke into the house at like 3 a.m. Anyway, long story short, he had a gun, and the homeowner was armed too, and he kept him at bay with his gun and convinced him, hey, just drop the gun. We'll hang out here and talk. And they waited for the cops. Guess how long it took for the cops to get there? Take a guess.
45 minutes?
An
45
hour
minutes.
and a half. An hour
Unbelievable.
and a half. I mean, imagine sitting there in a living room with some guy that is off his fucking rocker in your living room at 3 a.m. And so anyway, it's like, back to your self-reliance thing. The government, it serves a purpose to do things that we can't do as a people, like fight our wars.
Right.
Whatever healthcare thing you believe in or you don't, or like whatever, like big government things that you can't do yourself, right? And individual responsibility has to be something that people take into account. So anyway, you can talk about this for days and days and days, but it's such a shame. It's just awful.
It's a very interesting conversation, and I like to have this conversation with many people I can, because there's obviously a lot of polarizing opinions out there, which is great. But it sucks because I think so many folks out there are very unable to have a discussion about this because they're so
It's so
fearful,
heated.
and I understand being afraid.
Yeah.
And they want to do things to make them feel better, and I get that. But at the end of the day, you have to really look at what's going on, move past the fear of shit just happening, and look at what's going on at an analytical level, which sucks. Like, looking at these horrible situations from a very analytical level isn't fun to do because we feel a lot as human beings.
Yeah.
But that's how we figure out what's going on and how to fix it.
Well, and
Not from a level of
Well,
fear
the, the thing that sucks too is, like, with the way the media is going now, name your media company. It's all fucked. But, like,
oh yeah.
so none of us actually know what's going on at all. So
It's
how
crazy.
are we supposed to make informed decisions?
Yeah, you're hearing so many different versions of the story. I would highly recommend people go and listen to any of the interviews or podcasts that have been done as of late with the guy that that engaged the shooter. He's a local Texas guy.
Yeah.
He went to battle with this motherfucker until the cops got there. He has a really honest account of what happened because, hey, he was there. I highly recommend it. It's pretty sobering. It's pretty scary. I mean, he ran out there with bare feet, grabbed the gun he had in his living room. Thank God he had a way to protect himself.
Fuck yeah, Texas.
But
Fuck yeah.
It's just
What's crazy to me too is, like, his story is hard to find.
It is
honestly,
hard to find.
like, it's not being reposted by every outlet, in existence. It took me some time to find it.
Well,
you know?
and it depends on what
They're not like.
Yeah, and it sucks because, like, Andrew has a Washington Post article up here, and it's historically a little bit left leaning, but people will be like, well, this guy engaged the shooter after all the murders happened, like after he shot everyone in the church, which sucks. That sucks. It's too bad he didn't get to him earlier. But we don't know what this guy was going to do after. I mean, he was a piece of shit. He was going to get in the car was running, and the car had a bunch of other weapons in it. He was ready to rock. He had full tactical gear on. He was going to hop in his car. The guy said there was a church like a mile down the road from where they just were. So anyway, the point
What's
of
cool to me, like, in the aftermath of this is, at least in Tennessee, I've done some reading because I follow the local news here, is I'm in Davidson County, which is kind of the Nashville area. The Williamson County, which I think is to the east of us, their law enforcement department has now offered consultations and write-ups, and they'll go to your office, your building, your church, give safety meetings, look at your building, tell you how to make it safe, how to get out. And I think that's awesome.
Me too.
I think we need more of that. I think we
course.
need more education on how
Education.
to be out in the public, and if something does go down, which is unlikely,
Statistically, it's very
statistically,
unlikely, yeah.
you are very unlikely to be in a situation like that.
But that's proactive. The
is
city of
proactive.
Portland thinks they can hold a sign downtown and think it's going to change things.
Exactly.
Or make look, I mean, I guess whether you're quote pro-gun or anti-gun, I don't really personally care. I'm not pro anything. I'm just pro. What I'm pro is reality. I try to live my life based on reality, and it's
a great way to put
You know
it.
what I mean? Like, I don't love guns. Who would love a gun? That's not the point. The point is I love life, and I love being safe with my wife at a movie theater, and the reality of the world in which I live in. And so that's what I'm going to base all my decisions on. Like, what is actually happening around me, not what I wish would happen, not what I wish my government could do for me. I just, that's how I see it. So for now, until someone can come up with a magical way for this stuff to go away, I personally am going to be more self-reliant. I'm going to be more self-aware. I'm going to be, aware of my surroundings. And we could talk about that forever.
My so to end
Yeah,
this,
that's the best I've heard it put ever. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
well to end this subject, then we'll move on. So my stepdad put it a very, very cool way that resonated with me for a long time. So my mom was a very anti-gun kind of person, which is great. That's fine. But my stepdad pointed out to her, if we outlaw guns, that just means that the good people aren't going to be able to get guns to defend themselves. Because the bad people that are getting the guns are going to get guns regardless.
Well, I mean, yeah, and like, look, last time I checked, murder was illegal. So
Exactly.
this guy,
Because you
It's
outlaw
non-
guns, it just means that the good people to defend themselves are not going to be able to
shocking.
defend
It's
themselves.
shockingly ignorant to think that that's the answer. I maybe I'm wrong, and I want someone to message me or hit me up if they think I'm way off course here. Honestly, because I've yet to hear a good point, and I want to. I really do. I'm really open to it.
World War I, the Japanese didn't invade America because they said their saying was, behind every blade of grass in America is a... They did not invade America because guns in Japan are illegal.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very hard to get a firearm in Japan.
I don't believe in gun crime. I don't believe in there's just violence. There's crime. There's bad things.
And
9/11.
bad people will always do bad.
9/11 happened with guys with box cutters, for fuck's sake.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
if you want to cause harm. Some guy drove into a bunch of people in New York City with a U-Haul truck.
Yep.
Some guy killed 50-odd some people in Paris with a van. No one's talking about banning vans.
But with gun logic, that's acceptable.
Well, but here's the thing, though. I don't fault people. I'm not necessarily mad. It's like Travis is saying. We should be able to talk about it. It's a discussion, and it's a
Right.
continuing discussion, because I think the people that my personal experience that feel strongly anti-gun, or however you want to put it, they don't like firearms. They know little to nothing about them. I mean,
Exactly.
almost nothing. I mean, they couldn't even point to what one was, what's the difference between semi-auto or full auto or this or that. And I don't expect you to. I don't expect everyone to be into guns. Why would I? It's a stupid thing to actually be into. But what my point being is, like, know the topic in which you're discussing. I would never expect. I mean, look, we all here are pretty
And 99.9% of the time, they never do.
or whatever.
It
I
doesn't
don't
matter
know.
what the topic is.
Yeah, it's just my personal experience has pretty overwhelmingly been that experience. That people who think that that's the answer, or at least that's the first thing they're like, I want to do something, and because you have a right to want to do something. I get it. I want to do something. You'd be a sociopath.
They're very motivated to want to do something.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
You're motivated, and you want to. You're like, fuck, something has to happen. You know, God, we have to do something. So
You
I
do
get
the best
that
that you
motivation.
know how.
That's right.
But you don't do any fucking research.
Or I guess I don't know. And look,
Yeah.
it's not an anger.
There was a point you made earlier too, just about education in general. Like, I think so many general issues would be alleviated if we were all a better educated people.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
by doing the research. You know, knowing what you're actually talking about, like looking
With
up
no emotion.
documents and articles.
Check your ego
Exactly.
and emotion at the door. Just go for facts, and you may be surprised on
That's-
both sides. I
that's-
might be surprised,
That's always been
and
my
I'm
point.
hoping
Exactly.
that I am.
That's always been my point with the way the media is. We literally, it's impossible to be correctly informed.
Well, it's certainly
Unless you were there.
Yeah, what I would say is it's really easy to have your confirmation bias.
What were you going to
happen.
say, Travis?
I said like you said it's impossible to be correctly
I
informed
feel that way,
unless
yeah.
you were there.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, anyway, that's awful, and I guess we talked about it more than you said we would.
We did. We did indeed.
It's hard not to. It's hard not.
It's
to.
my
We
fault.
all
I get
just
really
want
riled up
good
with this
things.
stuff.
We just want peace. We want love and
Everyone wants the
happiness
same thing. I know. And honestly, if someone's listening and they're yelling into their headset and they totally disagree with me, I get it. It's fine.
Send us a snail mail.
Yeah, no, I mean, you probably
Write
know
us
me.
a
Give me
letter.
call.
Let's hear it.
I'm always open to talk about it. Here's my rule on talking about guns, though. It has to be one-on-one. I'm not kidding. There's no booze involved. It's not a group discussion.
Yep.
This is not something you talk about at the bar when you have to talk over people. Like I've tried that, doesn't work. This is a complex discussion that requires complex discipline and patience. You know?
Yeah.
And
so-
understanding.
and understanding, actual understanding. And so anyway,
Which is why it hasn't been solved yet. Complex titties is what Andrew just typed into the. Yes,
I can always
titties.
count on it.
Amazing. We're now back to normal regular scheduled programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Regularly scheduled.
Shit
talk.
can get heated on here.
Well, for what it's worth,
I love it. This
I,
is
I
great.
just love how when you type in complex titties, half the pictures are Trump. It's just
Drew, there was a couple other. What did you got there?
That's it.
That was pretty much
That was it.
What's that Rolling Stone one? Nothing.
Oh, this is I picked up. It's kind of related to it's an ad. Fuck them.
That's an ad.
To the free speech thing we were talking about just a second ago. But 30 years ago, Dee Snider of Twisted Sister was fighting for free speech or
Right.
like with the lyrics and
Yep.
whatnot and
That's right. He was a big
all that.
proponent.
Like we already fought for all this shit before
Right.
political correctness and
That's right. Yeah, we've been there, done that. I mean, and you can even go further, like the 50s and people being
for sure.
right put on
Lenny
the,
Bruce,
The problem-
comedian.
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah,
The problem
Lenny
is
Bruce.
it's way more
Exactly.
extreme nowadays than it was back then too.
Well, there's actual
Back then you could
consequences.
drive drunk and just get signed off with a warning.
Oh, yeah.
50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We live in a different world
That's
now.
right. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean it's an interesting place to live, isn't it, Travis? It's a weird country.
Man, it blows my mind every day.
I know.
Every single day, just something's like, wow.
If,
Yeah.
Here we are.
if I
This
can
is-
ask
this
a
is
question,
2017, living on Earth.
Yeah.
what so what
Pretty
are
exciting.
I'm assuming the issues that plague Portland, Oregon, are a little different than the issues that plague Tennessee. What are some things down there that you guys are like up in arms about that are like what the fuck is going on? Like what are some of the pressing issues down there?
You know, it's an interesting question because the Davidson County, which encompasses Nashville, is definitely one of the most liberal areas of Tennessee,
Right.
which is great. I love that because as I mentioned earlier, I think Tennessee is generally a very conservative state. The election last year for president we were definitely a red state, by far. But it's interesting to kind of find these little pockets of, liberal-leaning people in some of these bigger areas, and Nashville's no exception. So I feel like, honestly, a lot of the things that generally Nashvillians are talking about might be fairly similar to Portland
Yeah.
in a lot of sense, which is, things like gun violence. There's tons of carjackings in Nashville. There's some gang violence. There's tons of drug busts and
Yeah.
things like that. Like that all exists here, and there's lots of opinions on that and things. Same thing with we have a huge gay pride thing every year, which is awesome. That's been growing every single year that I've been here and seen more and more about it, get headlines, which is super rad. It's a very cool place to live because being kind of like the surrounded city with tons of conservative input from other parts of the state, it's a polarizing place. But I think that's
Absolutely.
kind of cool because
Yeah.
you get a lot of ideas, you get a lot of things discussed, a lot of arguments maybe at times, but that's okay. But specifically, I don't really know what would be a different, thing that Nashvilleians might care about more than Portland, or be discussed more than the Portland area.
From what I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is Nashville is like Oregon, where Portland, the city of Portland and the surrounding areas typically is pretty liberal, left wing, at least left leaning. And then you go 30 minutes in any direction outside of Portland, it's pretty quickly conservative and whatever. That more.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that pretty much how?
What's
Tennessee
really
is?
interesting, you've probably seen, because this actually made national headlines. I think he's one of our senators, Bob Colker. I don't really remember. He has. I don't know a lot about him because I haven't lived here officially very long to really know a lot of the local politics that have been happening. Republican, politician from Tennessee has been giving Donald Trump a lot of shit recently and calling him out on stuff, and we're loving it. Because he's a guy that is a conservative, has those values and things, but is not afraid to call out DT when he's clearly off his rocker.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And I disagree with him on a lot of things, but to see someone actually stand up and get attention for it is pretty cool. It
awesome.
kind of actually, and he's about to retire, so he's not going to go for re-election, which is maybe why he's maybe coming out of the woodwork a little bit. But that's been kind of interesting here, and there's been a lot of coverage on that recently, even in the national headlines. Like there was like a Twitter feud, I think, between DT and Bob.
Whereabouts is Nashville in relation to Tennessee?
Yeah,
don't
so
really know.
Nashville is very close to the Kentucky border. I can get to Kentucky in 30 minutes.
Oh, okay, so it's North Tennessee.
In terms of east-west, we're fairly middle of the state,
right,
and then towards the northern border.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Tennessee's like a narrow state, right? Like it's thin from north
Top
and
to
south,
bottom
right?
and
right.
long.
It's like my
left to
penis.
right, that's
What
correct.
it is.
It's just
It's
like milk
exactly
penis.
like my penis.
Ew.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so like getting to Memphis, like where my girlfriend's from, that's a 3-hour trip.
Mm,
Knoxville is the other direction to the east, to the east.
gotcha.
I think that's at least 2 hours or so. If you're driving towards like one of the coasts, you're going to be in Tennessee for a while. But if you're going north or south, like again, when I go home to Michigan, I'm out of Tennessee within 30 minutes.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Damn. Do you drive to Michigan typically?
Yeah, because I'm too poor to fly.
How far of a drive is that?
I can do it in about 8.5 hours on a good day.
Oh,
Bad
damn.
days, about maybe 9.5.
Yeah, I always forget. It's a little different out in the east side of this country. The states seem to be so much smaller.
They're a lot closer together.
Yeah, it's more Europe.
Yeah.
style.
The one, like, the drive is pretty good, except when you go through Indiana, which you go through the long ways of Indiana, so you're in Indiana forever.
There are some
And it's one of the
rough
most
places in
boring states
Indiana.
outside of, like, the plains
Yeah.
and, like, maybe Oklahoma or Nebraska.
Ugh.
There is nothing
Nothing.
good in Indiana.
Dude, so
Wyoming.
Sorry if you're from Indiana.
So when
I don't hate you.
when I've toured, my least two favorite states, sorry, not my weekend, but are Wyoming
Oh yeah,
and Nebraska.
Uh-huh.
by far, dude.
It takes fucking
you
hours to
ever-
get
Totally.
through them, and there's nothing but corn.
Have you ever been to North Platte, Nebraska?
I have not. No.
Anyone that's listening? That's been to North
I don't think
Platte?
so.
Dude, that is a fucked up little town. It's like
I will say
if
this,
the
though.
Nazis had won
There's
the war.
some...
That's what that place is like. It's fucked. Like all the town, me and Stefan went there. All the stores were like open random hours. Like we're open Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 1 to 2:30. Then we open again at 4. We close back at it's just like the most random shit ever. And there's little kids running around with their
I just
shirts
fought
off
the
and-
urge to say something really offensive.
It's,
by the way. I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
As to a reason as to why they're only. Sorry, everyone.
Neil just
Saying that though, I
You
love
can mail us.
visiting parts of this country that I've never been to before that are different than what I'm used to. I think that's super interesting, even if it is
Totally.
rather unexciting. Again, driving through not Wyoming, but like Montana, anywhere out there is just epically beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one time
Totally.
on tour with May where they were actually blasting, I think for a new road or something. So we were actually stuck on the highway for maybe 45 minutes. We just got out of the van. And we were right on like a lake. There was mountains, and we just like
Big sky
explored
country.
for like a good 30 minutes before the traffic moved. And that
Yep.
was amazing. It was way cool.
amazing.
That's one thing I'll say. It's a very beautiful country.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
when you're used to touring the East Coast in Texas, and like you see a city every hour.
Yeah.
It's like it's the most boring
Oh, yeah.
thing ever. And it's like, okay, well, we got to go through Nebraska and Wyoming to get to our next date.
I think
It's
one
like,
of the
fuck.
most boring drives is when you get outside Oregon into California and you're going through like Sacramento, that long. Andrew,
it-
you know what I'm talking
it
about?
doesn't
That
take you very long,
fucking
though.
stretch.
It doesn't take you very long. How many hours? How many
I-
hours does it take?
It's like 4, 5.
4 hours. Nebraska takes like 10
Yeah, like
hours to
10
get through.
And at least yeah. There's like
It's nothing but corn.
Oh, that
corn
sucks.
and a deer.
I think probably the worst drive I've experienced is when I head out to California, specifically with John Paul White. And I've done this with May too. Is we maybe get to Texas and then have to drive through the desert, and
Yeah.
that drive
New Mexico.
Brutal.
is something else.
Something else, man. People
Just
live
insane.
out there. People live in like. Have you ever been to Death Valley, California? 'Cause I used
I'm
to
not
live
there
in
specifically, but
Coachella.
I've been in that relative area.
Dude, you want to talk about people that want to be isolated, like totally anti-government, anti-everything? That's where they go.
Yeah.
Well,
It's fucked. People like live
It's
in
wild.
in the hillside, underground, like really creepy shit.
Well, as you know, like that's not even as bad as like. So when you tour, there's the East Coast, there's the West Coast, and there's Texas.
Yeah, right.
It's like it's
I know.
it's its own demographic when you're
Yep.
touring.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like there's bands from Texas that just tour Texas
Yep.
because they can.
Because all the big cities are so spaced out that like
Yeah, we'll just
it's like California. It's like when you live in Sacramento, you're not going to drive 45. No. But when you live in Salem, Oregon, you'll drive fucking 2 hours to go see a show.
of course.
Or when you
Same.
live in Portland, if somebody's playing in Seattle, you'll drive 3 hours to go.
Exactly.
But you live in Texas,
Wow.
it's like fuck that. I'm not going to drive 45 minutes.
Yep. Andrew?
Probably the other craziest drive I've ever done was L.A. to San Francisco, and this was like in July, so it was hot.
Yep.
So L.A. was 110 degrees. Did a show there. I think we went to Temecula next, so a little further south. Then we back up north. Got out of the van in San Francisco. It was 60 degrees after just being 110. We were literally freezing. It was the most insane temperature change I've ever experienced in my life.
Have you
It was like, did we
mostly
just go to another planet?
have you mostly done van tours or bus tours?
Now it's mostly, well, it's probably even. Originally, I was doing a lot of van tours, like May, John Paul White, some of the other smaller groups that I've toured with, like earlier was all van. The past 2 years have all been buses, like with Michael W. Smith, with Rodney Atkins. Some of the corporate gigs that I've done, if we go far enough away, it's all bus, which is great. I love the bus. I'm not a big van person anymore. I get very uncomfortable in vans
Of
because.
course.
How
It's
many
too
how many
small,
people were
and I
you
get
touring
very
with in a
antsy.
van?
Say that again. Sorry, I missed it.
How many people in a van were you traditionally touring with?
Let's see. Well, good question. I think May we had 8.
Nice.
That's a five band and 3 crew. John Paul White was less than that, I think by 1, like 6 or 7. Probably 7.
That's not too
When I've
bad.
done corporate gigs though, we've had 10. And those aren't super those are under 4 hours, but still 4 hours in a van with 10 people is
Oh shit.
insane.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly. Not a lot of room to. But packing 10 people in a bus, no big deal. Whatever. Let's
yeah,
do it,
bus,
you know?
yeah, no big
Super
deal.
easy.
Yeah. Well, we're getting pretty close to the end here. We've been going a couple hours. What time is it in Nashville, Travis? You're 2 hours.
It is 9:53 p.m.
Damn.
It's time for some dinner.
Yeah.
Ooh, my voice cracked. Dinner.
Let you go. Hey, Neil, I got a question for you.
Oh god, here it comes.
Why are there all these goddamn flies around here?
That's something I've been trying to figure out, and
Jeez.
they're really rude. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, they
like,
went in my mouth.
yeah, if they like.
Is that what
so-
the you ate that earlier?
Yeah.
We've
Yeah,
got
I'm
like
shooing them away every 2 seconds.
so every in Portland every winter when the summer turns into fall winter.
Yeah, there is a lot of those little fuckers.
Yeah, they hover inside because
Yeah.
it's warm, but they're really rude. So like
Might be the
you know like a
pile of
normal
trash in the
fly, you
hallway,
like
too.
flick them off, like you flick your hand or whatever.
Yeah,
they
they don't
fly
care.
Away.
They don't care.
fucking care.
They don't care.
Yeah. They just fly into your mouth and shit. So
Little
that's a
dumpster
problem we have.
flies.
Yeah,
Little assholes.
it's not dirty in here, right?
Well, Travis,
well,
let's wrap this thing up. We cover the flies in the world.
yeah.
Is there anything you've been inspired by? Any bands you've been listening to? Any other movies or anything that
Man.
you can let people know about or anything at all?
Man, that's on the spot. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what?
I mean, I always am, you know, like I obviously spend a lot of time here working on the stuff I have to work on, but I love always listening to music. I try to jump on Spotify every day to find something I haven't heard before. As I mentioned before, I love watching movies. Like I really kind of pull inspiration and ideas from really everything, you know, even like, again, from just being outside. Like nothing is better than just, for me, going outside for minutes, taking a deep breath, exhale, clear your head, come back in. But that's just kind of who I am. So I really kind of pull strength, if you will, and inspiration and ideas from kind of everywhere, because I've just been affected by a lot of different things. That's just kind of who I am.
Sure.
So it just kind of depends on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fair answer, especially since I put you on the spot.
I have one last question, if you're okay with it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
So if you were to give any piece of advice to yourself, say, I don't know, 10 years ago, when you just discovered that you what the fuck, Andrew? Sorry.
God.
What was that? There was like porn on the screen for 2 seconds. So if you could give advice to yourself as a young professional wanting to do this for a living, looking back, what would you give advice? Like, what would be the advice to somebody?
I would say don't conform to what you think is traditional. Like, don't think that whatever you think is the traditional way of doing something is the right way for you.
Can
I
you
found my
elaborate on
path
that?
in doing what I do kind of by accident. Like, it's just kind of what worked for me. And when people ask me, like, how do I get to do what you do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, you're a different person. I don't know what drives you. I don't know what inspires you. Like, it's hard for me to tell you how to get motivated when you're a different person. Like, I think we all have different things that kind of push us to do the things that we do. And that's what makes us unique. And that's why we all are doing even somewhat similar things, but do it differently.
So
And
so in
what's that?
In a summary, what worked for you?
What worked for me was kind of doing a lot of everything, like doing a college, you know, then dropping out of college, which is more or less not very traditional to do. We usually go to college and graduate. I didn't do that. And then, you know, a lot of people get 9-to-5 jobs after they go to college. I didn't do that either. I worked out of my bedroom for a period of time trying to learn how to make records. You know, after learning a little bit about audio, like, I still had more to do. So I had to come up with ways to figure out the gaps that I didn't understand yet and how to make pro sounding, you know, quality records and things. And I just kept looking and kept experimenting and trying things. I think that's kind of what's fun about music is you have such freedom to experiment and learn and trial and error. And, you know, if you don't like feel comfortable like asking a band to come in and to do work with you, like try to like just get files from somewhere. Like there's tons of free files on the internet of like songs you can mix and experiment with. Download some stuff and start twisting knobs and just learn how that EQ works. Like, oh, if I put this compressor on a bass guitar, this is what it sounds like. And things like, I think there's just such freedom to kind of just really learn how you want to do things and make that your thing and really kind of hone in on your individuality. Because I think that's what's kind of cool about this too, as I kind of mentioned earlier. We all make records, mix records, produce records and stuff. Tons of great stuff out there, but we all have a different way of doing things to some extent. Like there's some standards for sure, but no one approached it the same way. And I think that's awesome. I think that's kind of what makes this exciting for me, is that I can talk to another mixer who's doing great work, but I don't really agree with how they do stuff.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I do things differently.
No, I love it, man. It's something we talk about a lot around here, is just not overthinking and just doing, you know, getting in there and getting your feet wet. And also, like, there's that movie on HBO called The Defiant Ones. That's a documentary of Dr. Dre.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. Well, there's a part in the movie where Jimmy Iovine is talking about his like plan of attack, or his approach to his career. And he recommends he's like, you just got to ignore what everyone's doing. Put on those horse blinders and go.
Learn from it, but ignore.
Learn from it, but exactly. Don't be concerned what the guy next to you is doing. because ultimately, like Neil said, learn from it. You don't want to be a selfish piece of shit. I mean, there's things to be learned from history and whatever. But at the end of the day, just do it. Just give it a shot. Be you. Be honest. And like you said, don't try to do the thing that how'd you put it? The way that you thought was
traditional.
supposed to be.
Don't follow the crowd.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to do what everyone else is doing.
Exactly.
You're not everyone else.
No, you're not.
Totally separate.
That's right. And exactly what works for the guy next door isn't going to work for you.
For me, what I've
100%.
always said is, if you're having fun doing it, you're gonna do well.
Yep.
If you're passionate about it, if you enjoy it,
Yeah.
like, who gives a shit?
Right.
Like,
Love it.
Exactly.
if you
Love
don't
it.
love it,
I love it.
then find something else.
I think it's what's cool too is like we get to have jobs where I think generally we love what we do. Like I talk to so many people that I know that are not necessarily like not happy, but don't love what they're doing, and I couldn't imagine that.
I know.
I really couldn't. I'd have a
I
hard
know.
time.
I know. It's a shame.
And,
Well-
and what's crazy is those people don't think that what we're doing is achievable, just like we don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. It's just as easy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone thinks that someone else is they possess something that you don't, and at the end of the day, companies are just made up of people. Dr. Dre is just a guy. I mean, yeah, there is such a thing as talent and skill, but at the end of the day, everyone is the same. Everyone has a capacity to go out and do great things. So you might as well try, for fuck's sake.
And it takes time to
takes a lot of
cultivate
time.
skill.
I know.
It takes a very long time.
Like, how many years were you interning and working before now? Learning from other
Honestly, it's a lot less than some other folks. Like I feel like I've cut some corners. Like I was with Dustin about a year and a half, and with Ryan, I was with him not even like maybe 6 months. Like
people. But that was
I've
working
definitely
every goddamn
done everything I
day.
can to accelerate my career. If I could accelerate things, I was gonna do it. Like I was definitely like looking to jump
Yeah.
many steps if I could possibly get away with it, and that's what I've kind of tried to do. Because again, I have goals. I want to get to my goals as fast as I can.
Mhm.
Like obviously, I'm not, not capable of them. I'm just trying to find ways to get to where I want to go.
Well, I think that's
Which is
part
to
of
make
I think that's part
records.
of the strategy is making good decisions that get you further along in a quicker amount of time.
Like honestly, like I know a lot of folks do this, and it's and I think it's great knowledge and experience. But I really couldn't personally, for me, I couldn't imagine being a staff engineer at a studio for like 3 years. I would get really bored with
Oh,
it. Anyway,
so
sorry, I
bored.
know we're running out of time, but
No, yeah, it's all good.
that's just me.
Well, where can folks find you, buddy? Where can they find you on the socials?
That's a great question. Well, Instagram,
So polite.
Travis Ball Mixing on Instagram. If you're a Twitter fiend, Travis Ball Mix, a little shorter. And then my Facebook page is also Travis Ball Mixing, and then my website is travisballmixing.com. Hopefully you got all that, because I know they're all very different, and the branding is super not clear. So
Yeah, we'll put some links and stuff in the bio for the podcast and on Instagram as well. But yeah, basically Travis Ball Mixing. We'll get you on Instagram, right?
that's me.
You got it.
Stateside MGM.
Come say hi.
Yeah, to find
You can find
Stateside is
everything.
at Stateside MGMT. The website is statesidemgmt.com. You can find my personal Instagram at James Ian Macmillan. Where can they find you, Neil?
Everywhere. Google.
What's your Instagram?
Neilio Engel. NEILIOENGLE.
Drew, what you got?
Don't mind if I drew at Instagram,
Yeah.
aka Sleepy Fuck at Instagram.
What up? What up? What up?
Got a show this Friday, headlining.
Oh, do
High
you?
Water Mark,
Shit.
Vibrisay.
Shit, man.
Come see what's up.
Yeah, dog. Neil's working on some really good stuff as of late. He's wrapped some mixing jobs. Yeah, what's up with Sustainer?
We're in mix note stage.
Mix notes? Yeah, okay, cool.
Mix note stage.
And then
It's gonna be fucking
Love
heavy.
it.
yeah,
Heavy
he's
as fuck.
producing a thing right now with
Alisana.
well that too.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, that's
You're
what
working
I'm
on new
Nice.
Alisana.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're gonna be sending me. They're basically doing a B-sides. Sending
Yeah.
me this week.
So that's super exciting. Really happy that you got that one.
Yep.
Yeah, check out the website to see what everyone else is working on. Ryan Lewis is up in San Francisco right now working on a punk rock record. Kind of associated Fat Mike from NoFX, but anyway, a whole different thing. Adam Pike is home for a brief moment. He's doing some mixing stuff. Then he goes back out on tour with Red Fang and Mastodon in
Again?
Europe. Yep, again.
Jesus Christ.
That's
that
so
guy is
rad.
killing
Goes
it.
back out.
So rad.
Yeah, he's a road dog. Mike is currently doing a couple more songs for his band called Impulse.
Stay Sick Records, right?
Yeah, nothing's confirmed, but that's what they're talking to some folks.
I just fucked that up. Sorry.
You motherfucker.
No. It's unreleased.
Gonna have to edit that out.
And Josh Bowman, excuse me, is our newest guy from Toronto. He's also just killing it, doing a bunch of good mixing jobs. Kind of similar to what you're doing, Travis. He does a little bit more mastering than you, but he's definitely
does he? Okay, cool. Good
focused
to
on
know.
mixing. Yeah.
When's he going to be on?
He'll be on at the end of the month, I
That's
believe.
right. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll do a similar kind of Skype call with him. And then we all know what Travis is working on because we just talked about it for 2 hours. I'm pretty sure I just swallowed another bug.
Travis,
I gotta get out of this dump.
as your last comment, what are some of the things that our viewers should check out that you've done?
Oh, sure. Well, I think probably the main thing would be the May record that I worked on.
Excellent.
It's the self-titled May thing. I mixed 90% of that. Super proud of all that stuff. It's great music. If you're a May fan, a lot of these songs didn't get lots of attention when they were released because they released them independently, post-label. But it's great music. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a May fan. I've got a lot of other cool stuff.
MAE. by the
song
way,
called
for anyone
What's that?
MAE, not MAY.
Oh, yes, MAE. That is correct. Just did an EP for a talented group of brothers called the George Twins. That's out on Spotify. Check those songs out. Mixed 3 or 4 of those ones. And then another just kind of random single that I did for a guy named Harrison Wheeler called Dream.
Cool.
Which was a very fun song to mix. It literally is the definition of dream pop.
I listened to that
So if you're
today,
into that-
actually. Fucking
Did you like
great.
it?
Yeah, it's fucking great. Sounds fucking awesome.
Rad.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being on, dude. We appreciate it.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Totally
man.
enjoyed my time, and you guys are all great.
Yeah, you're going to be on a lot whether you want to or not, which is what I tell everyone.
Wow.
Next week, we have
Okay.
a very special guest, Michael Draper. He's
Oh.
a dear friend of mine, dear friend of everyone here. He's an
Days and
actor.
Nights.
He was the singer of a band I used to play in called the Days to Nights. He's living down in Los Angeles doing the acting gig. He was in a movie called Green Room. He was in Portlandia. He's been killing it down there, so we can't wait to have him on
That's awesome.
next week, so please tune in. This episode with Travis will drop Thursday, November 9th, tomorrow. So available on iTunes and YouTube as well. And share it, subscribe, download, leave a review. It helps us out immensely.
And make sure you have Travis mix your shit.
Yeah, get a hold of us for Travis to mix your shit. Exactly. Good job, Neil. Love it. All right, man.
Thanks,
we'll
Neil.
talk to you the next time, Travis. Thanks, man.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
Adios. Wear a condom next time.
Bye.